Hello, everyone, and welcome to Picking Up the Pace, the new approach to mass events. I'm Josh Lee, your host and MC for the next 4 hours as we dive deep into the hottest tips, the trickiest tricks, and the deepest insight on offer from the wonderful team at Enthuse, as well as our event partners at London Marathon Events and Great Run. I did say 4 hours, you didn't mishear me, but rest assured, we are going to have loads of breaks, loads of opportunities to engage with our speakers, loads of juicy insight for you to take straight to the bank. So stay with me on this journey because, and here's the first pun of the day, today's a marathon, not a race. Get it? I'm sure you get it. Today, we are here to celebrate the first year on from the return to normal for the sector. But we're going to focus on the future of mass events as our priority today and how all the big changes from the past 2 years can actually inspire a future of mass participation events for charities, what we can learn from them and what we can do differently, or maybe what we can bring back, what we shouldn't bring back. We're really going to have a big conversation today. I'm already getting positive feedback on the puns, so I'm going to scale that right up today. We're going to encourage charities to embrace the new normal and proactively plan for what is new and next in mass events. Fundraising. Can I get a whoop whoop in the chat room? I'm going to assume someone has said whoop whoop, but mostly we want to inspire you all. We want to give you hope that mass events are actually still a hugely successful way to build powerful communities of fundraising, all of them with a single goal to raise boatloads of money by challenging themselves to do things they never thought they could. And that's actually the energy we want to bring to today's event as well. So picking up the pace, the new approach to mass events. We want to channel that same energy that our community fundraisers have when they do their first 5K, 10K, half marathon, full marathon. That energy is what we want to bring to our fundraising. And of course, we're joined by you, the brilliant mass event fundraisers from across the UK and possibly even abroad, who use Enthuse for your fundraising, or if you don't use Enthuse yet, you're here to know more about how you can get ready and get set and go into a new year of mass events. So there is a chat room either there or there. I'm going to do a lot of misdirected pointing today. There is a chat room. If someone could tell me if it's on my right or my left, give me a shout out in the chat room. I want to know your name, the charity you work with, the location you're based, what part of the UK, or if you're abroad, where you're dialing in from. And I also would love to know your biggest mass event achievement. So this could be that you ran delivered a mass event with your oh, it's on my left. I think. Am I pointing the right way? Is that my left? Yes, stunning. So the chat room is over here. I want to know, as I said, your name, the charity that you work with, the location you're based in this big wide world, and your biggest mass event achievement. So this could be delivering a mass event as part of your fundraising program, or, and I think there's a really big chance here that a lot of you are actually participants in mass events. Every mass event fundraiser I've ever worked with has already ran a marathon, and they brag about it all the time. But this is your chance to brag shamelessly. Tell us about it, the biggest mass event achievement that you have either in your program, your fundraising program, or personally. I want to hear about it. I'm going to get access to the public chat room in a second, and I'm going to snoop in there and see who's here and see where you're all calling in from as well. But first, I want to do chat is done to fire up some whoop whoop comments. Excellent. I knew I could rely on you guys. A couple of whoop whoops in there. First, I'm going to do a few introductions for who you're going to be meeting throughout the day. So I'm sure you all know Enthuse, the industry-leading fundraising platform and mass events extraordinaires. You'll hear from some possibly familiar faces if you've worked with them before. So we've got Will Swan-Bell, we've got Rosie Parkinson, and we've also got Sophie Clark, who's going to give us a few inspirational messages throughout the day and join in for some of our sessions. So you might know some of those geniuses there. We've also got our two big event partners for the day. So, I mean, if you don't know these brilliant partners, then you're going to get to know them really, really well throughout the day today. We've got the London Marathon Events team. They're the masterminds behind TCS London Marathon. You might have heard about it. The annual 26-mile run through the heart of London and a cornerstone of the mass events program for charities across the country. A big moneymaker and a huge chance to engage with communities up and down the country is the London Marathon there, the TCS London Marathon. We've also got Great Run. So these are the genius team behind the Great North Run, which is actually the biggest half marathon in the UK. We were research. Is it the biggest in the world? We were trying to work that out last night, but it is the biggest half marathon in the UK, and it's the pride and joy of the Northeast. Love the Northeast. Big shout out for them. We've also got our special guests today. So this is what makes today's event even more special. It's not just the team at Enthuse, the team at London Marathon Events, and the team at Great Run. We're also going to have some extra special guest speakers from both inside and outside the sector. So we'll be joined by researchers, which is going to be really interesting, charities themselves, and then we've also got a real life community fundraiser joining us to tell us what makes a great experience for them as they raise the funds and raise that awareness for charities within their close-knit communities. So we've got these really different perspectives coming throughout the day. But first, I've got some housekeeping. I do just want to give a shout out to a couple of people who are in the chat room. With hi to Zoe from Dementia UK. Hello to Alicia from Childhood First in London. Hello to Jade from MS UK. Yvonne from the Rainbow Centre. And there's lots more apparently. Keep going. Tell us where you're from, where you are based in the world. And as I said, what's your biggest mass event achievement? I'm seeing some really cool ones. First marathon with 25 runners raising 60K. That is spending money, my friend. Ran the London Marathon in 2015. That's Yvonne from the Rainbow Centre South Coast region. That is awesome. And not run since. Yvonne, I believe in you. You've got this. You can do it. Anyway, diving back into the event, we've got a few bits of housekeeping to do before we get started. Today isn't just about me talking about marathons. It's not about our Enthuse specialist speaking. Today is actually a chance to get involved as an audience. So what we want to do is create a space for you guys to actually have a direct conversation with the team at Enthuse, with the team at London Marathon Events, and with the team at Great Run, as well as some of our guest external and internal sector special speakers as well. So there's a few buttons below the screen. I'm just going to take you on a bit of a whirlwind tour of what each of these buttons does and how you can engage with us throughout today's event. Firstly, you're going to find our enthusiasts who are Enthuse experts in the help desk breakout room, which I believe is about there somewhere. There's a big button just below the screen there that mostly, this button is correct, thanks. It's about there. Now this button is mostly for existing Enthuse customers who might have a few technical questions or need some quick advice on how to level up your fundraising. They're going to be fielding, the enthusiasts are going to be fielding questions live and in real time about how to make the most of the Enthuse platform, any new features, any old features that maybe you've fallen out of favor with and you want to kind of get a refresher on. If you've got hairy questions or tricky issues, there's no problem too small for the enthusiasts. Bash that button and dive in, and you can quickly bash out a question with them and they can get an answer for you. That button's going to be there all day though, so you don't have to miss any sessions to ask any questions of the enthusiasts. You can pick a time or during the lunch breaks and during the short breaks that we've got. However, if you are completely new to Enthuse, there's a special button for you guys. It's the book a demo button. So if you hit the book a demo button, you'll be able to book a demonstration session with an enthusiast or with one of the team from Enthuse, and they'll join a genius member of the team for a vibe check call. They'll get a sense of what your needs or your opportunities could be, what your specific charity setup is, and what would be the best parts of the Enthuse platform for you to use to level up your mass events participation fundraising. So they'll find the right fit for you and for your charity on the platform. So bash that button again, anytime throughout the day. That's not going to be a live session. That's going to be a session in the future. So you can choose a time that works for you and an enthusiast will give you a buzz and you can have that conversation. And then we've also got, I think it's over here, a networking room button running throughout today's event as well. This is a chance for you to rub shoulders with all the other fantastic mass events fundraisers who are joining for today's event. Just click on the networking room button to join the networking room at any point during today's event, and we'll keep the room open afterwards as well. So you don't have to miss any of today's sessions to do the networking or to do the enthusiasts help desk. You can jump in anytime. And as well as after the official end of the event. There is no the end of the event. We're going to have some drinks afterwards. You know what it is. Now, you'll also see one big additional button down there. It's the message board. I think it's in the middle somewhere. Enthuse wouldn't be what it is without you, the greatest mass event fundraisers in the country. Am I right? We want to hear from you, so we created a space to collect your ideas. I've actually got this board open, so get in there now and start telling us your visions, your hopes for the year ahead, and the big question at the top of the screen, what is your main mass event fundraising aim for 2023? So Yvonne, maybe if you're going to run another marathon, bash that in there. You want to participate in a mass event. But also, we would love to hear generally from anyone who has got big plans next year. Are you going to buy some spaces in the London Marathon? Are you going to do your first big mass event, or are you leveling up your mass events? Is it an income target? Are you going to try and increase or grow your income, or increase the number of people participating in your mass events? Maybe that's it. Adding another mass event to your portfolio. So any ambition that you've got or your aims, let us know what they are. Bash them into the message board button there, and we will be reading them out throughout the day so we can all kind of share and soak up the vibe of how each of us is feeling about mass events going into 2023. I've got a couple of extra people in the chat room. I want to give a shout out to Izzy from the Outward Bound Trust. And they've got the TCS on a Marathon is their mass event. This year we had 175 runners and raised over £360,000. That is astronomical amount of money, and I'm sure it's doing so much good for the Outward Bound Trust as well. So again, mass events, huge opportunity here, and I really, really love to hear that. And then finally, there's one more bit of housekeeping I want to do, and it's to tell you, don't forget to get your hands on the Picking Up the Pace Delegates bag. I think it's called Extra Resources or something, but there's another button below the buttons, a lot of buttons, but there is another button that is your Delegates bag. Now, this is a freebie for you joining today. We've stuffed it full of all sorts of goodies for you to take away as a thank you for joining today's event. You'll find research reports, there's some interesting articles, there's stat sheets, apparently some benchmarks, some video content, and much, much more. And all of that, it's called Bonus Resources is the name of the button, sorry. So not Delegates Bag, it says Bonus Resources. And all of that has been contributed by our event partners today. So again, that is London Marathon Events, and that is Great Run. Cool, so that's all the housekeeping. I'm gonna do a shout out throughout the day just to remind you to swipe all those goodies. Don't leave anything untouched. There's always fantastic goodies at an Enthused Delegates bag, so make sure you get your hands on that stuff. And of course, leave your message on the message board as well, because we're gonna circle back a few times today. Circle back, it's a bit too formal. We're gonna run back and look at the message board a few times today. So I'd love to hear what is your main mass event fundraising aim for 2023. But a bit of an overview of the day and how it's going to go. We've got a stellar lineup for you today for Picking Up the Pace. We're going to hear from experts from across the industry as they dish the dirt on what makes mass events shine. This is going to be in 3 main sessions. We've got the ready, the set, and the go, which might sound familiar. That's how you start a running race. See, they knew what they were doing. This is all very clever, isn't it? Each is covering a new and exciting perspective on mass events. So after each session, we're going to have a short Q&A. Make sure you're putting your questions for our speakers, not into the chat room, but actually under the chat room, there's another button, a hidden button, and this one says ask a question. So if at any point throughout the day, you have a question for any of our speakers, even if it's not related to what they're currently speaking about, we will have a chance to answer those questions towards the end of the day as well. So anytime you've got a question, click on the button that says ask a question, and there'll be a chance for you to bash that question in. Someone from the team at Enthuse and from the team at Fundraising Everywhere Plus is going to be collecting those questions. So after each of our big 3 sessions, we're going to have about a 10-minute Q&A. So I'm going to jump back on screen, and this is your chance to connect directly with some of our speakers today. But that is not the only chance. At the end of the day, we're going to have a 4th session, which is a panel discussion and a Q&A. And so any questions we've got that weren't quite covered by the ready session, the set session, or the go session, we're going to bring everyone back together, and we're going to get a chance to ask them directly what you want to know. Any burning questions you've got, any insight, any advice, any kind of worries or concerns, any question that you've got, start now, put it into ask a question. Even if you've got some questions now that you think, actually, I really do want Enthuse to give me a steer on that, or the London Marathon events or Great Run, anything that they might be able to help with, get that ask a question in there now. And so that'll be the big panel Q&A at the end. So we've done our housekeeping, we've done our overview of the day, and I think it's time for me to dive in and me to kind of get off screen and introduce you to the first part of the day. Obviously, it's been a weird couple of years for everyone in mass participation events. The very meaning of a mass event has changed, but despite all of that, we all found ways to participate together, but also separately in our living rooms. We're proud to look back at how talented fundraisers pivoted so quickly. That's you guys. You really pivoted quickly when it came to the COVID situation and the lockdowns, and really managed to find new ways of doing old things. Community fundraisers themselves across the country also continue to come together in virtual spaces and keep raising the money we need to continue doing good. But now it's time to focus on the future, and that's what we want to do today. We don't want to be too bogged down in the past. We really want to think, what does 2023 and beyond hold for us? So today we're channeling that energy into racing into the new year with a plan. That's a low-level pun. There's going to be worse ones future on. We've got some big ideas to share, and as I said, we want to hear from you. So we want to help you pick the pace back up and race into a new year that's bigger, bolder, better, and more mind-blowing than ever before. But first, I'm going to hand over to Sophie Clark, the commercial director at Enthuse, who has a few inspiring words to get us in the mood for our action-packed day ahead. Over to you, Sophie.
Thank you so much, Josh, and good morning, everyone. Really, really excited to be here today and wanted to wish you a very warm welcome to our first annual Mass Events Conference. So before I begin, I just wanted to pass on an apology from our founder, Chester. He would have absolutely loved to be involved today, but unfortunately was in quite a serious paramotoring accident recently. So he's at home preparing for his final operation. Good news is he's going to make a full recovery and he's well on the mend recovering at home. So it's really great to have so many of you participating in this today, as mass events are going to play such a crucial role in the year ahead of us. There's no doubt we're in quite difficult times at the moment, with the challenge of inflation, the rising of living costs, particularly for energy and food, but also interest rates increasing people's monthly mortgages or rent payments. So it's putting an increasing pressure on people's wallets and the amount of disposable income that they have to donate to charity. As with during the pandemic, the role of charities is going to be critical in helping people through this. And that's why we're here today. So to talk about how mass events can support charities in the amazing work that they do. The last year has been a transformative one for Enthuse. We couldn't be more proud to have become the online fundraising partners for both London Marathon events and Great Run. And these iconic events have really stood out in the difficult periods because supporters have got such a passion for taking part in them. When I first joined Enthuse almost 5 years ago, it was always a real ambition to support these types of organisations and their iconic events because of the huge importance that they have to the third sector. And here we are supporting them and working with them to help your charities with your fundraising during this challenging period. It's a dream come true, having helped thousands of charities raise millions of pounds in the first year of the partnership. So time was quite short for preparation when we came on board, but we were able to build a bespoke platforms for all of the events and integrated fundraising page creation with the registration to give fundraisers the ability to fundraise straight away and enable charities to focus on helping fundraisers raise money and not on creating fundraising pages. Our charity first model brings huge advantages to your organisation. We want your cause front and centre and not ours. And we also know from the research that that's what fundraisers want too. They raise more and donors are more likely to remember your brand, something that again is crucial in building those long-term relationships, especially in the current economic circumstances. So our technology smoothly supported all of the events without a hitch, including integrating fundraising pages with the apps for both the London Marathon and Great North Run. So today we are really excited to be talking about our experiences in that first year and give you the data, insights, and also some thinking that can help you into 2023. As Josh mentioned, we've got lots of different perspectives to share from the event organisers, charities, and the fundraisers themselves. So I'll hand you back to Josh, who's going to be our MC for today, to explain our icebreaker for the morning, and I'm sure there'll be some more puns in there as well.
Thank you so much, Sophie. And be careful what you wish for regarding the puns. I have so much awful material ready to go. You guys are just my testing ground for my awful stand-up comedy set. So thank you so much, Sophie, for that really inspiring message. And I heard a few things in there really pricked my ears up as well, especially knowing more about integrating fundraising pages with the event apps for TCS London Marathon and the Great North Run and things like that. That's really, really cool. And we're going to hear so much more about those features and the new functionality of Enthuse as we go throughout the day. But now I do want to pick on someone because somebody, Vicky, has already left a message on the message board, which is really exciting. Vicky's objective, or Vicky's main aim for mass event fundraising in 2023 is to increase ballot placeholders fundraising for our causes. And that I think is fantastic. So really growing the number of mass event fundraisers in their events across the country. So shout out to you, Vicky. Thank you so much for sharing that aim on the message board. As I said earlier, Enthuse just simply wouldn't be Enthuse without you guys, the mass event fundraisers from across the country who are using the platform. And so we really want to make today a two-way dialogue. So I'm going to be in the chat room. I'm going to be in the message board all day, picking on you, but please do share your aims for 2023, and please do keep chatting with each other in the chat room. I can see that you're all kind of reconnecting and supporting each other, which is really cool. So we want to hear from you throughout the day. So yes, we've created the space, the messaging board, we've got the chat room, and of course, remember to use the Ask a Question button if you have any really specific or detailed question that you want me to grill our speakers with throughout the day. But without further ado, it's time to look back at some of the most exciting mass participation events from 2022. We've got some of our favorite mass events like the Great North Run and TCS London Marathon, and much more. So sit back and enjoy this short video from Enthuse. There's going to be a wrap up of the year that was in 2022. Oh my God, that was really cool to watch. Thank you so much to Enthuse for pulling that video together. I mean, can I just get in the chat room, what was the weirdest costume you saw the runners wearing in that video? I spotted an avocado, a beer, and a pair of scissors. And the pair of scissors is the one I'm the most curious about. So if you happen to know which charity does scissor-related solutions to some sort of problem, please let me know in the chat room. I'm really keen to find out a little bit more about what that was. But again, thank you so much, Enthuse, London Marathon Events, and Great Run for pulling that video together. That was actually really inspiring. I mean, I'm stood here in my slippers in my living room, but seeing all those people running, it was really cool. I just want to do another quick shout out to the chat room. We've got Samia from Starlight Children's Foundation in the UK. London Marathon is a big one for them, which is fantastic. I've got Hannah here from the National Trust based in the head office in Swindon. They'll be at the London Marathon and hopefully the Great North Run too. And then I just want to say, Han, Dave from RNLI has reached out to you. So this is one of those missing connections kind of in the metro kind of situations. He said that he previously worked at the Trust many moons ago and would be good to chat and swap ideas. So Han and Dave, if you guys can connect, jump into the networking room afterwards. Would love to see the two of you come together and chat about your mass event fundraising. Another one I've got here was David here from Daft as a Brush Cancer Patient Transport in Newcastle upon Tyne. Best year for us at Great North Run this year, so looking to do it all again and even better next year, which sounds really cool. And then there was another person who I think was nearly doubling their mass event fundraising aim. So Olivia, her main mass event fundraising aim for 2023 is to recruit 125 people to run the big half, which is much larger than the 70-person team they had in 2022. And that's the kind of huge, big growth ambition I love to see in mass events fundraising. So with that, we are ready to kick off our first major session of the day. This is ready. We are getting ready. All of my speakers are in the back room, so I'm going to get us started. We're starting the day with a discussion between a few inspiring mass events fundraisers who are really setting the pace for the entire sector. In a second, I'll hand over to Hugh Brasher, the event director at London Marathon Events, as well as Nikki Holmes, the commercial director at Great Run. They're going to be hosted by Angela Richmond, who's the founder of Red Fox Research. They specialize in researching how people engage with the digital world, and they're a brilliant partner of Enthuse. I've heard really amazing things about Red Fox Research and about Angela, so I'm really excited to hear how they combine this research approach and this perspective with the work that London Marathon Events and Great Run are doing. They'll be discussing the state of play in mass events in 2022 and their expectations going into 2023. They'll chat through some insights as well. So make sure you've got a pen and a notepad handy, because they're going to be sharing some insights found by Enthuse, as well as input from London Marathons and Great Run, kind of dissecting what we're learning. Essentially, we're about to hear perspectives from some of the world's biggest fundraising event organizers or mass participation event organizers. So if you do have any burning questions, make sure to bash that ask a question button. I can see a couple of questions popping up in the chat room. Ask them in the ask a question button, because I'm going to jump back on screen at the end of the session and join them for a Q&A. But without further ado, I'll hand over to Angela as she speaks with Hugh and Nikki. Over to you guys.
Hi, thank you, Josh. So in this session, we're going to be hearing from two of the biggest organisers of mass events in the UK, London Marathons and London Marathon Events and Great Runs. So yes, I'm Angela from Red Fox Research, and we produce Donor Pulse, which is a quarterly survey of over 2,000 UK citizens, which tracks trends in giving, fundraising and support for charities. So lovely to be joined by Hugh and Nikki to hopefully share some insights and knowledge around how participation in events is changing, and to look at how charities and fundraisers can get the most out of their big flagship events. So in the research that we do, a lot of the time we look at the demographic profile of different eventers and different fundraisers. And certainly we see some key differences by age in terms of the types of events that people like to take part in. So older demographics tend to be keener on walking, and running is more popular with the under 54s. But I'd love to know from you two, if you can tell us a little bit about the demographic profile of people who've been signing up for charity events in 2022, and any shifts that you see kind of going forward towards 2023. Are there any new or growing segments out there that charities should be thinking about? And how can they engage with them? And equally, I guess, are there any at-risk segments that you feel need nurturing a little bit more? Hugh, I'll go to you, if I may, first of all. What's your sort of take on the different segments involved in events?
So good morning. I think there were quite a few different questions there. It's quite a broad one. What's my take on the different segments as well? I think that we're still in a real period of flux, not really being able to predict exactly what is going to happen. I am over the age demographic of the people doing the marathon. Theoretically, according to the research, I'm over 54. But I do remember the recession of 1989, which went through to 1991. And one of the things that happened then was mass participation events didn't get affected at the start, but because it went on a lot longer than was predicted, they got affected later. So I think it's just at the moment, though, it's very, very difficult to make a prediction for what's going to happen. What I can say is that we had over 410,000 people apply to run the London Marathon for 2023, and a record number of people from abroad. So over 90,000 of those were, around about 90,000, or international entrants. So I think you really do have a situation where definitely the best events, the biggest events, events such as Nikki's and Great North Run, London Marathon, those are the ones that the sort of bucket list events that people want to take part in, and that they will do anything that they can to get a place. So I think that the feedback I've had from charities at the moment is very good. I think that there's an interesting opportunity that the market should be looking at, and that is really with the diversity glasses on, and looking at more diverse communities. Mass participation events are very middle class, and they are too white if you look at the general demographic. So if you go back to the history of the London Marathon and you go back to 1981, I did work on the first one. I was about 16. Now you can work out my age. I was 16 and I sold the train tickets. But in those days, it was 96% of the runners were men. It's now about 43%. So, I mean, it really was male. The average speed was about 3 hours and 30. So the average speed is considerably more than over an hour slower now. So it's become a lot more, it has become a lot more diverse in terms of male-female demographic, but there really is an opportunity to involve different ethnically diverse communities into mass participation events. So I would say that that's the biggest opportunity that exists, but it's not easy because it takes time, it takes the right engagement to be able to believe it. You must see it. So in terms of, if a charity is looking at its marketing, looking at the pictures that it portrays of its fundraisers, it's really important that you are ensuring that those pictures are representative of the communities that you want to attract. So that's probably, I think, the biggest opportunity. I see, just in terms of some general information, that slightly younger demographic is slightly more interested in raising money for charity than the older demographic. And by younger, I mean under 40 versus older over 40. So in terms of growth numbers, or in terms of absolute percentage numbers of entrants under 40 in the ballot versus entrants under 40 for charities, there is a higher percentage under 40 for charities. So that's my brief answer to, I hope, most of the questions.
Yeah, that's brilliant, and certainly in the research that we do see a lot of appetite for fundraising for charities in the under 40s. Who I think maybe have less pressures in terms of other things that they need to spend money on and time. They maybe haven't got so many family pressures. So I think there's an element going on there, and I definitely want to come on to talk about the recession and the cost of living crisis, because that is something that we're seeing a lot of in the research. But I just want to kind of go to Nikki, and understand whether you're seeing a shift in the demographics and what kind of segments you're targeting for growth, or just to protect things in these difficult times.
I mean, I looked back at our year-end demographics across our entire series versus 2019, and actually the demographics hadn't changed significantly at all. So we still have about 52% male, 48% female, which was exactly the same number as we had in 2019. We're about 12% under 25, 27% between 25 and 34. 30% 34 to 45, and 22% 45 to 55. So we're a pretty obviously we over-index against the 25 to 55s and slightly under against the under 25s. The only slight drop off, I think, for us was that under 25s. In terms of like 1 percentage point difference from 2019, and I think I know why that is. And previously we'd been working very, very hard with universities in all our great run cities to try and bring in, that 18 to 20 sort of 2-year-old group who I think potentially we recognise, started out in sport when they were sort of 13 and 14 and were really keen, and then discovered alcohol and potentially dropped off a bit. And I think there is a sort of a recognition amongst the new sort of student population, as opposed to my generation of students a long time ago, who actually aren't into sort of going on the pub as much as they sort of as much as we were, and they're much more into sort of health and fitness and actually fundraising. So a big objective for us going forward, particularly in our cities such as Birmingham and Manchester and Portsmouth, is to really work hard again with the universities and to try and discount entries in order to bring in student groups. And I think charities should think about that, because these guys are really into their fundraising. So that's one key point that I can make. In terms of geography, that's something that we have noticed there's been a change in. We're finding, not so much for the Great North Run, because I think that does still attract people from every single postcode in the UK, and that's not going to change. But for some of the other very large half marathons in Glasgow, Birmingham, Manchester, we're noticing that people aren't traveling quite as far. So whereas we would have seen about 15% of people coming from more than 50 miles away to those events, that's gone down to more like 10 to 12%. So we are focusing more on people within those city conurbations to take part. And I think that's probably been this year because of COVID. Maybe people are less likely to want to make a weekend of it, which is what they had done previously. So I think one of our focuses, again, with the recession coming, will be to try and encourage people from further afield to travel and have a discount weekend taking part in one of our fantastic city half marathons across the UK.
I was just going to say that, and that's definitely something we've seen data for in the research, that people say that they are wanting to take part in events that are closer to home. And I think that's, some of that is the kind of hangover from COVID potentially, where they're just being a little bit more spontaneous, I think, in terms of what they're doing, and not making those big plans because maybe they want to go on holiday this year,
Yeah. And I think, and I absolutely back up Hugh's point on diversity. Mass participation running is a very middle class white sport at the moment. We've had a lot of success in Birmingham, working with the local council there in bringing in some really new diverse groups, and that's made quite a difference to that event. But we're still a long way off in a lot of our other city half marathons and 10Ks, and for the Great North Run. And I think we are working hard to engage with specifically actually Muslim running groups via incentivizing them to come along and work as influencers with us and that sort of stuff. So and I agree with you, it is a challenge, but it's a huge opportunity as well, so one we will continue to pursue.
So it's really good to know that there is growth in the sector, isn't it? And that there are groups that we can tap into that haven't really participated up to now. But let's go on to talk about the cost of living crisis, because I think it's impossible not to talk about that. Some of the data that we're seeing in the research from Donor Pulse is that people who take part in events, not necessarily for charity, say that they're reluctant at the moment to support charity and run or walk for charity, because they don't feel right about asking people for money when times are tough. So you've potentially got a bit of a double whammy in that people haven't got as much money to donate, and you've got a reluctance to ask people to support charity. We need to find ways to kind of get over that. So I'll ask you first, Nikki. What do you think the opportunity is for fundraising in a landscape where people are worried about the cost of living? How is it impacting sign-ups? And do you see any upside at all from it?
To be honest, I think, as I say, we did some research at the back end of our year, and our data sort of hasn't sort of reiterated what you've got to date. So we asked the question on our post-event survey, had people found it harder to raise money for charity this year? 78% said no. on a yes/no answer question. So you know, actually that doesn't sound as quite as worrying, but I recognise that, you know, tough times are coming, and it's not that I've turned the lights off to save money. I'm just in one of these sort of serviced office style coffin meeting rooms, and the light bulb has gone out. I guess for me, the reason I love this business is because I genuinely believe that the challenge of a mass participation event is the thing that's going to motivate you to get out there and get active and keep fit. And that's going to be much more so than a gym. I think you've got much more likely to keep up with your fitness challenges if you actually sign up to the Great North Run or the London Marathon than if you just, you know, have your gym membership paying £40 a month every month. So potentially, is there an angle there of let's save money on gym membership and buy a pair of trainers and enter a mass participation event instead? I think that's an opportunity. We obviously at Great Run recognise that things are challenging, which is why we are holding our charity package prices at the same price for 2023 as we had them at 2020. So we haven't increased our prices in that entire period. And we are also not increasing our charity entry prices for all our events in 2023 either. We may actually have to increase them for the general public in the ballot. We haven't decided that yet, but we're holding our prices for charities because we recognise how tough it's going to be for you guys to get a return on investment from your packages and from your places, and we really want to ensure that you continue to do that. So we're doing that. In addition, with the exception of the Great North Run, we are offering a 15% discount on our entries for charity partners that come in and buy via our prospectus in November. So I hope that goes some way to sort of help. In terms of cost of living crisis at the moment, and again I'm sort of touching wood, but we open our events on the day of the event, and we're not actually seeing too much to worry about at the moment. We opened the Great South Run on the day this year, and we've seen exactly the same number of entries signed up over the same period as we did this time in 2019. So at the moment, I'm feeling I'm not. I mean, obviously, I'm a worrier, so I am still concerned about entries. I do think people are going to still be entering late, but potentially. I've got no data to suggest that things aren't going to improve for 2023.
That's brilliant, and I think it's fascinating that the people that have taken part and have raised money for charity, which is the sort of 78% that you quoted, that 78% of them didn't struggle to raise money, because the people that we were talking to were people who were reluctant to get involved in the first place. So I think there's potentially a misperception of how it's going to be to raise money, but I think charities have to do something, don't they, to get over that and to give so that people feel they have license to go and ask friends, family, colleagues to support them in these events, because they may be worrying about that. Hugh, what's been your experience of how things are being hit by the cost of living crisis?
Well, if I can just go to take up a point you've been talking about, I think that the most important thing for fundraising is the reason that someone is raising those funds. The emotive stories, the emotive happenings in people's lives that have driven them to an extent to that point. And that is the most powerful fundraising message that can be got across, is that sadly, most of us have some form of tragedy in our lives, whether it's a friend with cancer, whether it's a family member, whether it is something happening to a child or a friend's child, whatever reason that there might be, those reasons exist, sadly, and probably exist even more now than they have been previously. And those are the reasons that both drive people to raise money, and also the reasons that drive people to give money. And so my advice would be really try and just make sure that the true connection with your charity and that the reason that someone is raising funds is there. Because people, we yes, there's a cost of living crisis, it hits a certain percentage of the population more than others. And in our sector, it tends to hit slightly later. So going back to what Nikki's talking about, which was that she hadn't seen it yet, we haven't yet. It doesn't mean it isn't going to happen in 6 months, 12 months, or 24 months. But that reason, you've really got to, again, just look at who you're trying to attract. There are people who have money that therefore want to give more money because they realize that that money is even needed more than ever. And I think it's really just about trying to be, it's a word that overused in the pandemic, but it's being agile in your thinking. It's about trying to do things slightly differently, and it's being connected to your customer and being connected to the reason that someone's chosen to run. So that would be my advice in terms of just being really clear what it is. And if you've got a campaign that you're raising money for something, and you can connect with people in a locality, you can connect with people who connect into that reason to run, or that reason to cycle, or that reason to swim, that is effectively the best thing that I think you can do. So going back, we're not seeing it at the moment. That doesn't mean it won't happen in the future. I mean, the feedback we're getting for charities at the moment with the London Marathon places is they are inundated with people that want to do it, which is great news. But that doesn't mean that is the case for all events. And I'll go back to what you tend to get is the cost of driving now becomes so high that actually what you'll get is people doing more local events and then picking these great mega events. So it is those ones in the middle that might get left out.
Yeah, and I think certainly in the donor pulse research that we do, although we see that people do have a lot less money and they have less disposable income, a really big finding that we see is that people feel there is more need for charity these days. So I think there's a great acceptance of the need to contribute to society and contribute to charity, and that seems to be quite a permanent shift. It was kind of a blip when COVID came along and there were lots of public campaigns, but that's really kind of stayed with us, the need to be supportive as a society.
And I think can I come in there just to back up on what Hugh said about the personal stories? I mean, obviously we love all the personal stories that we see, and it's how we create our TV programs for the BBC, isn't it, Hugh? But I picked up a really interesting stat from the Enthused team last week, which was basically that apparently their research shows that if you can actually talk a lot about your story on your page as a fundraiser, you're going to raise 15% more in terms of individual fundraising if you actually sort of really focus on the story that you've got on your page, which I think is something that I was sort of it's pretty obvious, but I know that from now understanding that there's a lot more that we can do at Great Run to try and encourage the individual fundraisers to actually really populate those pages and get people involved from that perspective.
Yeah, and I guess that sort of brings me on to talking about just the popularity of in-person events and mass events, because clearly what you're saying is that there is still a big appetite for taking part in these events. And, a lot of things have remained online since COVID. We're having this conference here today online, but there really does seem to be an enthusiasm for these big mass participation events. And something that we have seen in the research is that since lockdown, there's been a lot more motivation because of people thinking about their health and their well-being and their mental health, and that running, walking, cycling has become a hobby, over that period. So there's a lot more participation involved. I'd just be, interested to find out on what your take is about the popularity of these big events. And I mean, you've already touched on it, really, what charities can take note of to inspire fundraisers. I mean, Nikki, you've talked a bit about that already, but is there anything you want to add about why people love taking part in these events?
I mean, we do research obviously amongst our finishers in terms of things that they value, and coming out more and more. There's three things that our participants value most. It's the spectator support. So people want to be cheered along the way, and they want to be cheered at the finish. They want a medal. They want a great big medal. They love medals, and actually what's coming through for us is that they like finishing it. They like finisher activities. They want to feel like, you know, there's something special when they get to the end of an event. And more than ever, it's coming out that the main motivator for taking part in our events is for a challenge, just for a challenge. That always comes out way ahead of everything else, even amongst the charity, the charity place runners. For a challenge is, in their minds, is even more important than actually raising money for charity. I don't know if that's the wording, but that's what really comes through. So, I mean, we're focusing, based on that research, very heavily on our event experience. So we're offering, enhanced warm-up, bigger start entertainment. We've invested significantly as a business this year on on-course entertainment, on-course zones, cheering zones, music zones, boost zones, in order to differentiate ourselves, I think, from those smaller events with a couple of thousand people in, where for me, you know, if I'm going to run a half marathon or a marathon, I bloody well want to be cheered on along the way. You know, that's what I need to keep me going. So I think that's what we're investing in. And a bit in terms of the finisher experience. So we've got a great partnership with Heart FM, who are doing, you know, music in our event villages. And I think in 2023 and beyond, we're really keen to work even harder with our charity partners to include you within that sort of celebratory finish. We changed significantly the finish, the charity village at the Great North Run this year. I think the feedback in the majority from you was that it was positive. We want to build on that again for 2023 and improve it further, and sort of just you know, keep ensure that the likes of the Great North Run and Manchester and Scotland are up there with those must-do events like the London Marathon as well, that you really want to take part in.
And thank you. And Hugh, I mean, obviously the London Marathon is a hugely popular event anyway, but, you know, what do you think is the sort of secret of it being so popular? Is it to do with the cheering and the...
Yeah, look, I think you've got the virtuous circle of 750,000 people lining the streets of London. So we call it the world's biggest street party, where close to 50,000 people just happen to be running 26.2 miles. And it is the most incredibly positive experience, and creating life-changing, life-affirmative experiences. That's what mass participation events does, whether it's a marathon, whether it's a festival. It is by bringing people together and going on a journey. And the journey, I don't just mean from Greenwich to Westminster, I mean an emotional journey. And you know that you will suffer at some stage running 26.2 miles. It's as simple as that. But every single person will suffer at some stage running 26.2 miles. But you will be joined in that suffering and helped in that suffering by someone, and you will help somebody else. And it is that incredible feeling of help, of positivity, of an emotional connection to a total stranger that you cannot and do not get anywhere else. And that's why, you're going on a journey from Greenwich to Westminster through some of the greatest sites that London has to bring. But it's that emotional connection that you feel, and giving people a connection to their feelings and giving them such a positive experience in a world where the media is so entrenched in negativity, where, what are we talking about? The cost of living crisis. Well, hold on. Let's talk about what an incredible experience we are giving to the people that take part. And that experience is life affirming. It is good for people's physical health. It is good for their mental health. And if people can raise money for charity because they are inspired to do so through the stories that they've either heard and they want to help, or because of their personal reasons, then amplifying that story, connecting with it, it's going to help them celebrate even more. And when they're thinking on their training, can I do it? That is what is going to spur them on even more. So there really is an amazing opportunity that exists at the moment, because people will look at where they'll look at where they spend money. But if they're getting this incredible experience, and that's what Nikki's talking about, the incredible experience, whether it's through music, whether it's through that human connection, whether whatever element it is, whether it's through the charity cheer zone. We had Rainbow Row at this year's London Marathon, the LGBT plus community coming together to create the most amazing experience for people on on mile 21 of the London Marathon. I mean, that's where you're going to hit the wall. And any of you that have run it, if you hit the wall, then it's difficult. It's even more difficult. So look, I don't like to live in a world of doom and gloom. I like to live in a world of positivity. And it's just really looking at, we have amazing opportunities. I mean, if you just go to the data, and 11% of the London Marathon participants are from diverse ethnic communities. London's population, over 40% is. London's population is 10 million people. That's 3 million people who we could be inspiring to do it straight off. Now, just saying that's the opportunity. Right, so we can focus on either the opportunity. It's just one of the opportunities, by the way. We can either focus on that, which is what I think is more positive, or bemoan what used to happen. And the world has changed, and the world is changing quicker than it has at any time. But it is that storytelling, that emotional connection that we need to amplify, and then the connection that people giving them rewards. So charities, the more that you're connecting with your runner on the journey that they're on with the training, the more you're connecting with them afterwards, the more you're supporting them on that journey, whether it's through advice, whether it's training advice, whether it's nutrition advice, whatever it is, creating that connection will mean that they hopefully will be with you for life at different points of their life, in different events, as they change their goals or what they like doing.
Well, look, so it sounds really exciting. I want to make sure we leave some time for questions, actually, because I can see that there are questions coming through. If I'll go back to Josh and just see if there's any questions that we'd specifically like to answer from charities. But thank you so much to both of you for those insights about the events.
Amazing. Thanks, Angela. And thanks, Hugh and Nikki as well. I just have to say that final talk there, Hugh, went on a roller coaster from the world's biggest street party to the pain and suffering of running a marathon, and then the Rainbow Row with the LGBT community. I'm buzzing just hearing that kind of description. And Nikki as well, thank you so much for sharing, especially some of the insight and numbers behind the Great Run, the Great North Run as well. So I've got a few questions to ask. These have been lifted from the chat room, and they've been lifted from the Ask a Question button as well. So everyone remember to ask your questions with the Ask a Question button that's under the chat room. But the one thing that's kind of come up a bit in the chat room now, and I'll ask this question, I guess, broadly and maybe pick on one of you, is some smaller charities have reported things like they are not having any trouble filling their London Marathon spaces or their Great North Run spaces, but some of their smaller sort of challenge events aren't quite getting full, and the participants are calling and saying, I'm having trouble fundraising. And these are charities that have maybe had to shrink their team or shrink their expectations because of the COVID situation over the last 2 years. So the question here that has kind of come up in the chat room is, how do people kind of kickstart their mass events program again after a difficult couple of years? So based on the insight and the communication you're having with your runners, how can people start again almost, or what can smaller teams do to kind of recover a little bit? I might point this one to Nikki first and say, is there anything that you've got from the Great North Run or anything else that Great Run does that you could kind of give some advice to these teams?
I mean, I guess as we sort of all talked about, the London Marathon, the Great North Run, those are two events that the ballots are still very incredibly strong. We had the biggest ballot number for the Great North Run this year, and we're hoping to do again next year. So I think whereas the challenge is in the sort of slightly in the smaller events, and I guess it's really tough, but I think. In terms of what we're doing in our marketing teams to generate entries for events like the Great North Swim, perhaps, or that aren't bouncing back quite as quickly as the North Run and the London Marathon did. We're focusing on slightly different age groups. So the younger age group, and more diverse groups, as I say, via using influencers from specifically more diverse backgrounds, and I think just as I said before, just really going out and trying to remind people that doing virtual events isn't as good. You're not going to have that experience if you do an event virtually versus or you don't actually go along and take part in a really big special experience. I think
absolutely
helps, but
and yeah, no, that sounds fantastic. And I think, I've run a couple of half marathons. I know exactly what you mean. The warmth and energy that you get as you're running through the streets of London, spotting people and things on the sideline. And Angela, I'd love to ask you sort of the same question from a data perspective and from some of the research that Red Fox has done with Enthuse. What kind of do you see there that smaller charities could do to re-kickstart their program? Is it buying ballots in the same old events, or is there another approach they could be taking?
Well, I think there's several different things. I mean, we've definitely seen a big shift towards the big mass events, but I think there is still a role for virtual or hybrid events. There are still things that people want to do that maybe they feel some of the kind of events that Hugh and Nikki have talked about are too challenging for them. They may want to do things where they can go on more of a personal journey if they've got a lower level of fitness. And I know people can walk the big run events, but a lot of people who are more novice and have a lower level of health might not feel comfortable with that. And for those people, it's still a challenge. And I think the people around them would still recognize that it's a challenge if they say, I'm going to do, somebody I knew did, they did a fitness session every day for a month. That's still quite a lot for somebody to do, to go and do a body combat every day or a body pump every day. So there's still ways that you can support your own health and raise some money for charity. So it's complementary, really.
Yeah, I think especially when you talked a lot, all three of you talked a lot, actually, but I've got a question for Hugh now. Hugh, about diversity, because I think, Angela, as you were just saying, these different opportunities that we can create for the community fundraisers to do a personal challenge or something that is still a challenge, maybe not the mass event side. But Hugh, you talked a lot about diversity in this space, and it was really, really cool to hear a lot of the things you were describing around tapping into more of the community in London and things like that. There's also a lot of questions around accessibility and making sure that these events really work for everyone. But there's a question on that. That's it. You spoke a lot about the importance of human storytelling as well. And I would love to get a sense of what are some of the best examples of this you've seen. Nikki just mentioned using influencers to tap into more diverse communities and get them to join the mass participation events. Are there any other tactics you could share with the audience or anything that you've seen that you think that was a fantastic example of really reaching out to diverse communities and getting them to join a mass participation event?
So I think, just to try and also slightly answer the other question, which was about what should you do if you're a smaller team? It is about why is it someone is going to raise money for your charity? You've got to be really clear. What is your elevator pitch that is going to resonate with people to get them to do your event for your reason, and that they can go down the pub and say to somebody, I'm doing the event for this reason. And it is really, really simple and really clear. So having a really simple, clear message being able to pitch it in 30 seconds. That's an elevator pitch. You were going between floors. You got less than a minute, being really clear. That's what you need to create. So that's my advice to the charities. Coming back to just storytelling that is powerful. Personally, I found the storytelling about Anousheh Azuri at this year's London Marathon to be just incredibly powerful. So Anousheh was locked up in an Iranian jail for 6 years on an Iranian jail for trumped up spying charges. And he was beaten, tortured, and tried to commit suicide 3 times because of he was worried about his family and how he would be used against his family. And he saw a light at the end of the tunnel. And unbelievably, that light was the London Marathon. And the one thing he desired in his freedom was to be able to run the London Marathon. And he told that story so powerfully that every day, the one thing he was allowed to do was to exercise. When he wasn't locked up for 23 hours, he was allowed to exercise for 1 hour. And that's what he thought about. And he was running for the other prisoners that weren't enjoying their freedom. And he was raising money for them. And that connection, I think we can all feel it about freedom. Like, what do we want in life? We want to be free. We want to be free of the shackles of worry. We want to be, whether it's financial worry, whether it's emotional worry. And he told that story so well. And it connected not only with his community, but it connected much, much wider because people could understand it. So I really do think you've got to be much more local in your thinking. You've got to be what works for that community, and you've got to ask the community. You've got to, you can't go and impinge yourself upon them. I think those are the days where you just go, well, here's an event and everyone's going to come to do it. You've got to ask people, do they want that event? Do they really embrace it? The big half, it now has 18% of the runners are from diverse ethnic population. So that is one of the highest percentages of a half marathon in the UK. It's not necessarily the highest, but it's one of the highest. I just think, and that's a huge amount of work that the team have done. Going in, talking to, whether it's the Black Trail Runners Association, whether it's Emancipated Run Crew, whether it's Run Dem Crew, whatever different organization it might be, then really connecting with them. So I just think you've got to really think locally, and you've really got to try and simplify your message about why someone is going to run and connect that story with that community.
That just sounds fantastic. I would be lying if I didn't say there was a bit of a tear in my eye hearing that story. I don't live in the UK anymore, so I didn't actually know about that story. That's really, really magical. There's a few people in the chat room have really just said, wow, incredible. So Hugh, thank you so much for sharing that story with us as well. On that topic, we are actually joined by Linda Ajiman in session 3 today from Black Girls Do Run UK, who's going to give us that other perspective as well. So from the diverse communities who might want to take part, she's got some really amazing things to share with us. But first, Nikki, Hugh, and Angela, thank you so much for joining us for session 1 today. Nikki and Hugh are going to join us again for the panel discussion at the end. So I'll see you guys later. But Angela, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Brilliant. Thank you again to Angela, Nikki, and Hugh. Sorry, I'm crying a little bit, to be totally honest. That story really moved me. But next up, I will keep us moving. I'll hold back the tears because we do have a short 10-minute break. So at the start of the day, I promised that it wouldn't just be hours and hours and hours of listening to me speak. You will have 10 minutes now to head to the bathroom, grab yourself a cup of tea, and get ready for session 2, which is going to be super exciting. While you are on your break, remember, you've got the enthusiasts room. If you have any questions at the help desk there, you've got the networking room to rub shoulders with anyone else attending the event today. You've got the resources button down there as well, the extra resources, the bonus resources. So make sure to get your fingers in there and see what you can steal from that delegates bag. And then of course, we've got our online message board as well. I've just spotted that you can add GIFs to that. So if anyone wants to bash a few GIFs in there, go wild. After the break, we'll have a look at what everyone has said. But for now, I will throw you guys over to your 10-minute break, and I'll see you back here in 10 minutes. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Picking Up the Pace, the new approach to mass events. I hope you all enjoyed your break, and I can see that a few of you have added some messages to our message board. So I can see, for example, Alzheimer's Research UK has a really exciting 2023 ahead. They have a £1 million target for London Marathon alone. So it's a huge year coming up for them. That sounds really exciting, Ellie. Ellie Shelford, thank you for sharing that. And then Robin Plowman has said to get London Marathon mass places for 2023 or more likely 2024, as we don't have any at Alcohol Change UK at the moment. So Robin, I am rooting for you from the sidelines. I know you can do this. Get some places and get some funds, some fundraisers, and you'll smash it. And then of course, Vicky, who mentioned earlier in the day on the message board that she wanted to increase ballot placeholders fundraising for our causes, she's gone back and added a GIF, which is excellent. So if anyone has any aims for 2023 that they want to share for their mass event fundraising program, please remember to smack them on the message board, and we're going to share those throughout the day. But you won't have to listen to me speaking for too much longer. Now we're going to go into session number 2, which is set. So we have done ready. Now we're set. We're going to hear directly from one of Enthus's biggest and best charity partners about their mass events program and how they use the platform to engage their fundraisers. So I'm going to be joined in a second, or in a second, I'll jump off screen, and you'll be joined by Will Swan-Bell, the head of program management and support at Enthuse. He's going to be joined by Emma Cooper. Emma is the Challenge Events Project Manager at Brain Research UK, a leading UK charity funding brain research to help those affected by neurological disorders. I've been told a bit about Emma. Emma's the type of fundraiser who apparently calls it very straight. She's going to tell us what worked and also what didn't work for her program, especially when it comes to communicating with and engaging with her fundraisers at Brain Research. She's going to share the biggest learnings from mass events in 2022, as well as her hopes and expectations for 2023. I think for this one, again, you're going to want a pen and pad. You're going to hear a lot of insightful things and a lot of lessons to learn from Emma and from Will. So I'm going to hand over to you guys, and I'll jump off screen, but I'll be back at the end for a 10-minute Q&A as well.
Thank you, Josh. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining our conference on this session. As Josh said, my name is Will Swan-Bell. I'm responsible for our program management and support team at Enthuse. I've been at Enthuse now for over 3 years, and I've had the privilege of working closely with both the London Marathon Events and Great Run Company this year, along with a number of our charities like Great Ormond Street Children's Charity, Walk the Walk, Alzheimer's Society during that time, and also Brain Research UK. The last year, working with these partners and charities has been incredibly exciting for the whole Enthuse team. We've been able to celebrate many highlights while also constantly improving our platform to better serve the charities that we work with. This year, we've integrated our partners with their registration journeys, creating a connected, branded experience, and also their apps to support event day engagement and donations. We've also ensured that more branding customization has been made available to charities, such as custom fundraising stories, targets, and images. And we've collected a large number of feedback points from charities, but also fundraisers and donors who've used the platform over this year. That feedback will go towards the future enhancements that we're currently working on and hopefully be releasing very, very soon. We can see that this approach is also working, with fundraisers raising 15% more when charities have utilised these features and have a fully branded profile and page. The customization options that we also have on the donation amounts have also had a really meaningful impact, with charities seeing 10% higher average donations when they are customized. So now on to one of those charities and an exceptional participant in those events. Today, I'm joined by Emma Cooper, Challenge Events Project Manager at Brain Research UK. Brain Research UK is one of the many fantastic charities that we work with, and is the UK's leading dedicated funder of neurological research. They fund the best science to achieve the greatest impact for the people affected by those neurological conditions, and a large portion of their funding comes through their involvement in challenge events. To date, Brain Research UK has raised an incredible $209,000 through their participation in the TCS London Marathon from 299 runners. Emma herself has run 13 marathons, so is no stranger to these challenge events. Today, we will be discussing how to best maximise fundraising in challenge events through good communication and support, using the fundraising platforms, and also her aims for challenge events going forward into 2023. Emma, thank you for joining us.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Okay, so first and foremost, how did mass events go for you in 2022, and what were your highlights?
Oh, there was so many highlights for us. I think for me personally, one of my biggest highlights, I guess, would be the 6 of our runners dressing up as a vegetable box, and they set the world record for the fastest 6-person costume running the marathon. The page is still open and accepting donations, just a hint. But also kind of, having them set the Guinness World Record really sort of set the tone for the day. But we had a target of having 300 runners on the start line, and to actually have 299 there on the day, start and finish the event, was just a huge accomplishment, especially after the last couple of years with COVID and the uncertainty and being split between in-person and kind of virtual marathons as well. It felt like a real big comeback for us. Personally, though, it was just kind of being with our runners, having an area near the start pens in Greenwich Park, and just having that opportunity to kind of see the runners before they participate, give them an opportunity to kind of just decompress slightly, kind of get those last minute nerves sort of under control, an opportunity to meet some of the other runners, so they had people to hang out with in their start pens before they started running, and just last minute questions for me as well. And then seeing them at the end, having kind of waved goodbye to them at Greenwich Park, and then seeing them at our post-race reception in Trafalgar Square was a really lovely thing that we were able to do for them. In terms of mass events in 2022, though, I mean, for Brain Research, it's a little bit different for us in terms of targets. So our fundraisers can set their own targets. They know their support network, their friends, family, colleagues, and what's realistic for them, and is part of the application process. It's really important to us that they have a personal connection to Brain Research, either kind of friends or family or themselves, having that personal connection. And we want them to be realistic about what they can fundraise as well, and what support they might need along that journey. But we are also having a huge overhaul in kind of the way we process our applications and that stewardship journey, from the moment they send the application right the way through to marathon and beyond. So yeah, it's been a great return though.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's really nice that you're really like developing that story side of things, as well as Hugh talked about in the previous session, can be really, really powerful. So bringing that into your stewardship seems really, really lovely and really, really powerful. The photos of the vegetable basket were just incredible. I didn't see it in person, but so funny.
So many people pointing them out to us on the BBC or on the day. So it was so nice to be able to say, oh, they're part of our team.
Yeah, it definitely helps a lot. So in terms of communicating with fundraisers, how did you best engage with them ahead of the event? Did you find that some ways work better than others? And what were the key messages?
It's a really tricky one for us, mostly because I've only been with the charity 5 months, so I'm very much thrown into the deep end, and kind of we're still really kind of getting to know our runners. But we had a diverse range of runners, kind of from 18 all the way through to 73. Some of them were first-time runners, some of them were kind of experienced and kind of had a few marathons under their belt already. So the way we had to engage with people was really across the board. Some really preferred having hard copy letters with all the information. Some people were absolutely happy to go on to our Facebook community group or our WhatsApp group and share the information that way. So it was a real learning curve for us. Other charities I've worked in, it was all very much, this is our demographic, emails are fine. But it was sort of feeling our way through that process to make sure that we hit all of the bases and everyone had that support, regardless of kind of, if they preferred post, they would also get a follow-up email just to make sure that they had the information one way or another, or that support. So we sent out several letters, especially in the lead up to the marathon. So kind of 2 months to go, 1 month to go, good luck, with all of the core information, like don't forget to come to the expo to pick up your race number. We're going to be there. Please come along and say hi. Or here are the cheer points. Don't forget to kind of look out for us. Yeah, we're going to be cheering you on. We've got these events coming up. So just making sure that they were across all of the activities that we had set up to support them as well. Phone calls take a huge part of our application process. We phone, or at least we try to phone, everyone who makes an application to us. You get a really good feel for someone's enthusiasm and their personal connection and their why. I think running with purpose is a really important thing. And so we do get a massive application saying, I missed out on the ballot. I really want to run the London Marathon. Your charity was advertised. I've selected you. Whereas people who kind of come to us and say, I want to run for you guys, and I saw you've got London Marathon places, that would be great. So it's sort of, they choose the charity first and then the event is secondary. We also had the opportunity to host some workshops with Liz Yelling as part of our charity package. We had that opportunity to host workshops. So we really did kind of cast the net quite wide in what communication we had with our runners. Some people prefer in-person stuff, but having things online, because I mean, COVID is still a thing. It's nice to kind of at least have that invite there, even if not all of our runners are able to participate. Being able to kind of be in person, even at like the running show or the Meet the Experts, having a presence, I think, is really vital, and it's a simple thing for your runners to feel valued. If they see that you show up for them, they'll show up for you. Is something that I found just from personal experience this year at the Meet the Experts event. I had a lot of people come over to me and ask me where X charity was, and the disappointment when I said, oh, I don't think they are here, I'm really sorry. That could make or break someone's fundraising if they're not motivated, if they don't feel supported. And it's such a simple thing to do. I know it can be prohibitively expensive, especially kind of the expo, but it is that there is value there. Yeah, we again kind of going back to the Facebook group though, with our kind of younger cohort of runners, kind of sharing WhatsApp, or creating a WhatsApp group rather, and being able to kind of nurture that relationship a little bit more after the marathon as well has kind of set us up really nicely as a volunteer base for next year. Even if they aren't running it for us next year, we're really trying to kind of nurture those relationships. So we've got more people who are willing to come along and stand on cheer points with us and kind of really build that volunteer base and that community sense. Because if people have a great experience with you, the likelihood they'll come back.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's amazing that you've managed to engage with your supporters over so many different methods. I think it's really important as well for like that accessibility piece as well, because people do kind of favor different methods and it works better for them. And building to that community, as you said, is going to be so powerful for future events. It's also amazing that you had such a broad range of ages through your supporters. 73. Wow, that's very impressive. How do you encourage and incentivize them to raise funds through these events?
So sort of building on what I was saying about kind of volunteers and kind of just nurturing those relationships so people kind of come back. Incentives are big. I mean, the last few years have been quite difficult, obviously, because of COVID. I think this year's cohort, there was something like 10% were rollovers from 2020, but 5% of them had previously done the marathon for us before. And in terms of why they want to come back, it is that kind of a stewardship and the experience they have with us and the support they have makes them want to come back. But in terms of incentivizing in general, there seems to be this feeling of, I'm raising all this money for you, what do I get out of this? And that seems to be kind of a general mindset that we've got among our runners. I know as a runner myself, it was, well, I'm putting my body on the line for the next 6 months. I'm having to cut out alcohol and my social life is taking a nosedive. So kind of, I want to make sure that I'm in this 100%. So I can relate to that. But they are your most valuable asset, and we have to make them feel valued. Anytime they put on the running vest to go on a training run, they are a walking advert for you. And if they feel supported, if they feel like they are valued and part of the community, not just a runner, they are part of your charity community. They are, if someone comes up to them and says, oh yeah, I've not heard of this charity, tell me more, they're going to be your brightest stars that spread the word and be that ambassador for your charity. In terms of physical incentives, though, we're toying around with the idea of if you hit 50% of your fundraising target, say 2 months before the event, maybe you get a t-shirt or a wristband, a headband, or like a buff or something like that, just to kind of keep that motivation going, or even the chance to win a dinner for 6 for every £1,000 you raise, your name goes into the hat. So if you raise £3,000, your name goes into the hat 3 times, along with everyone else who's raised multiples of 1,000. And that way they can sort of gamify their fundraising as well, because they've got 5 friends that they can then offer those that dinner for 6 to. So on their page they can say, well, anyone who donates 50 quid in the month of December, for example, gets an opportunity to win one of those places. So there are opportunities, but it is kind of having that constant flow of communication to make them sure they are feeling supported and appreciated, and just being willing to take feedback from them as well.
Yeah, no, that the idea for the incentives kind of based on their success, I think it would be really powerful, and it's a really good idea, that gamification and how how you can make it a two-way thing is probably going to be really powerful. We've seen that you've used the Enthuse platform in a fantastic way to maximize fundraising in the last year. How do you feel the platform worked for you, and how did you find the onboarding?
Yes, so we created a really simple process to help onboard people, and it was we wanted to make it as simple as possible, just so it didn't discourage people. There's nothing worse than seeing a wall of information and not really knowing where to start. So it was a really simple, here are 5 steps, follow these 5 steps. And step 1 was literally, here's how to register yourself. Step 2 was, here's your registration fee link. Step 3 was, when you register yourself, Enthuse set up a donation page automatically for you. Here is the link. I think the issues we faced up front was the fact that Enthuse was kind of a new platform to people, or that they would totally forget that they had an Enthuse donation page already set up and would either go and create a completely new one or go to other platforms. Hence why on Enthuse we're at 209,000. We raised nearer 600,000, but that was spread across different platforms. But we are trying to encourage people to kind of make the most of Enthuse. That the work has been done for you. Basically, all you need to do is go on, add a picture of yourself in your running vest, add your story, and kind of keep it updated. If you can link or update it regularly with your training runs and photos, brilliant. That is the simplest and easiest way to keep your friends and family updated, and especially because of the integration with the TCS London Marathon app on the day. We had a lot of questions saying, why does the app say that I've not raised anything? That's not true. And it's because they were using another platform that doesn't have that integration. But yeah, it was just really useful, the fact that half of the legwork had been removed by having that automation set up for runners. It was just a case of reminding them of their link and of their donation page being set up with Enthuse. Yeah, we also have a fundraiser, a guide, and kind of the top tips to make the most of your page. So getting them to regularly update their page is key, I would say. It's where your friends, family, colleagues, even strangers are going to relate to you. If you've got a story, like I was saying earlier, if they've got that personal connection, that's how people are going to relate and want to donate to you. So yeah, that's sort of how we were trying to maximize things through Enthuse.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And now people are a bit more familiar and aware. Hopefully that'll carry through for the year ahead. But really, we see that supporter experience, and hopefully from your perspective as well, the usage of the features just aids displaying your story and conveying your goals and your charity. What would you say your biggest learnings are from 2022?
It would definitely be the way in which we engage our runners. If you are working for a charity and you're asking people to fundraise for you, I'm a big advocate of not asking people to do something that you wouldn't do yourself. So having run 13 marathons myself for charity, it's very much a case of, I can relate to you. I'm not talking to you as a charity person. I'm talking to you as a worker, as a runner who works for charity. And having that, I think they are able to relate to me. They feel as though they can ask me questions about their training and their fundraising, and kind of having or creating that space to make them feel comfortable to ask those questions, and kind of knowing that they can ask anything they need. It's that sort of one-stop shop for this amazing journey that they're going to be on. I will thoroughly recommend to everyone, if you've not done a marathon, go and do it. It changes your life. I probably wouldn't be in my job if I hadn't ever done a marathon. So please, and the way that you can relate to your runners after that as well, having gone through the process, those pre-race nerves, the training, the pulling yourself out of bed at 6 o'clock in the morning for that 20-mile run, and you're tapering, all of that experience and talking with enthusiasm about it comes across to your runners. And if they can see you're motivated and enthusiastic about the marathon and about running, they get value out of you and you get value out of them. It's a really easy, I say easy, marathons aren't easy, but it's a really nice thing that you're able to offer to your runners as well, is your experience, not just behind a charity veil, but as a runner as well. Like I was saying before, kind of if you've got runners, if you've got supporters who feel supported, chances are they'll remain loyal and come back to you to fundraise. Making sure that everyone who runs for you has a brilliant experience with you. It's only because of the experience I had during the London Marathon in 2018 is because I then went on and did 12 more. So had I not had a great experience, I probably wouldn't have done that. So, and again, just kind of taking feedback from runners. Don't be afraid to take the negative and learn from it, because it's building on the best experience for them. Invest in what they'll appreciate, good quality vests that they'll wear again and again, even during training as well. I've got a Vendetta Against vest, but that's a conversation for another day. But yeah, go left field if you want. So like even personalized t-shirts. One of my favorite bits of running gear is a charity top that I got as a freebie at the end of a race, and it's now part of my core marathon gear. So that charity now gets free advertising anytime I go running, because it's just a well thought through bit of gear. So yeah, that's sort of my advice.
No, that's hugely valuable, especially that first point about like encouraging people to do it themselves. We've luckily had a lot of people from Enthuse being able to take part, and it does definitely change the way you see it going through the process. I was lucky enough to go to a few of the events this year, not as a runner, admittedly, but next year I will be running. And it was just really good to see firsthand the experience and the people, and hear from charities and the runners. I think we're a little bit over on timing, but just very quickly, what are your aspirations and plans for 2023?
So I touched on this slightly earlier. So kind of because of COVID, the last couple of years have been a bit lower on numbers, but we are looking to kind of expand quite quickly. So this year we wanted 300 runners in our team. Next year we have just shy of 400 places. So we're looking for a team of about 400, of which we are just shy of 300 as of this morning, signed up already. So we are expanding rapidly. We're trying to expand our challenge events portfolio as well, not just looking at running, but also kind of the big three. So the Swim Serpentine, the Ride London, even kind of the Royal Parks Half Marathon, the London Marathon. We've just had a couple who are who completed a trek up Kilimanjaro as well. So even kind of investing in kind of walking challenges as well. So there is something for everyone. Everyone can get on board. So yeah, challenge events are for everyone. So yeah, and it's really just sort of nurturing relationships with our supporter base, and kind of make sure that once we've been on this amazing journey with the marathon with them, they want to come back and support us again, either by taking on another challenge or by kind of volunteering for us. We don't want to just set them off into the wild. We've invested in them, and I hope that through that experience and the stewardship process and having that amazing experience with us, they'll feel invested in us as well.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Emma. That was wonderful insight, and I'm sure many of the attendees will benefit from that. I think we're going to have a couple of questions, if that's all right.
Sure.
Yes, thank you guys so much. Emma, it's such a privilege to meet you. I've been writing down things as you said them. I just want to play a few back to you. Marathons aren't easy. So true. I'm really pushing for community fundraisers to join in. I've got a vendetta against vests. I'm questions for another time. Running with purpose, and if they see that you'll show up for them, they'll show up for you. And I just think you just kept dropping these beautiful little gems throughout that session, and the chat room has really blown up with a lot of different conversation around it as well. There's a couple of questions that have come through. Question number one, someone in the chat room was really impressed that you let your runners set their own target for the London Marathon. And they actually just maybe more of a technical question. What is your average fundraising per runner by doing that, by being so open about that? How successful is that for you?
Sure. I mean, of the 300 runners, well, 299 runners that we had, the average was somewhere about £2,350 that we saw. There were some that absolutely blew up and kind of had £7,000. We had a team that raised £10,000, but the average per person was about 2,300. So it is part of our application process as well. So we have those conversations with them, because if they've set their target at £5,000, but you talk to them and they say, well, I've never really done any fundraising before, I don't really know what I'm doing. It's having that frank conversation and saying, well, is £5,000 realistic for you then? Or is that a real kind of ambition, but you don't really know how to get there? So having those honest conversations with them really kind of help us kind of further down the line.
Amazing. And I really get a sense from everything you said that stewardship is such an important part of what you do at Brain Cancer UK, and especially using a lot of the functionality in Enthuse that Will was describing as well. A lot of people in the chat room, Georgia, I'm going to call her out, has just said lots of great ideas. Jenny has said, taking a lot of notes for my own stewardship planning. So I think everyone's robbing you blind for all of your fantastic ideas. And that is so cool to see. But there is a second question in here, which is you shared a lot of examples of the stewardship that you're doing. And you just mentioned picking up the phone, which is obviously so valid and important for mass event participants. You mentioned WhatsApp, Facebook groups. There was some talk in the chat room about Zoom group meetings with people, loads of talk about how to run a WhatsApp group. Is there any other tips and tricks that you didn't share that you really love doing yourself at Brain Cancer, or anything you've seen other charities do that you think would be really fantastic to bring into the stewardship mix for mass events?
I mean, my kind of best takeaway this year was doing the WhatsApp group was amazing. It was a really quick and simple thing to set up. There were rules that people had to agree to be part of the group, and we made it absolutely clear, kind of, this is for London Marathon chat only. I'm here as a moderator. If I see any harassment or bullying or anything that's not related to London Marathon, you'll have a warning and then you're out. And kind of not to share anything personal like that, but otherwise I kind of let it go, and they just supported each other, and it was a really valuable tool to have that required actually quite little input from me. So it's such a great and useful thing to have. So if you've got the ability to do that, absolutely 100% would advise to do that. Yeah. Sorry, I think I missed other parts of your question. Sorry.
No, that's all right. I was just going to say, the minute you said you just let it run wild and free, 7,000 GDPR consultants just fell off their chairs. But I think that it's absolutely a fantastic
with their
approach.
Consent, obviously.
With consent, of course.
Without their consent.
There's been so much conversation about making sure consent, and I think
there's no lawyers here, right?
No lawyer. We didn't invite the lawyers to this event. Don't you worry about that. We do whatever we want to do here. But no, there was a lot of chat in the chat room about ensuring that it's consented GDPR confirmed and consented space, and that it's also a positive and engaging space as well. But yes. Yeah, those are the big questions that were coming out of the chat room. But stewardship seems to be what everyone's big takeaway here is really making sure that they're communicating and engaging with their runners I think everyone has got the pressure on now to go and do a marathon as well. You've really kind of drawn the line there, Emma, too, which is
Even if it's just
fantastic.
a 5 or a 10K, going through the process of running a big event, I think really does and will change your perspective on what you offer in your stewardship as a charity as well. But yeah, marathons did literally change my life. So that's where I go.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, look, Emma, thank you so much for joining us today. And Will Swanbell, thank you so much as well. Will is going to join us again for the panel discussion at the end of the day. So if anyone in the audience has any questions that we didn't cover just now, bash them into the Ask a Question button, and we'll circle back and speak with Will on the panel at the end. But thank you both for joining us for session number 2.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thank you so much. It's been fun.
Brilliant. Well, look, that was fantastic. We've had so many really insightful and kind of emotional conversations today. I personally have genuinely shed a couple of tears in the first break, hearing the story from Hugh this morning. We've gone through 2 sessions. We've had our ready session and we've had our set session. We've got loads of data and insight that we got from Red Fox and the research that they do with Enthuse, which was quite cool. Things around participation rates and that kind of that paradigm shift as people maybe aren't traveling to get to mass events, but rather looking for local ways to kind of do that event themselves, do it virtually, finding those hybrid ways to make that work. And of course, we've also seen and seen in the chat room that people are not struggling to fill their places for the London Marathon and for Great North Run, but really it's these smaller opportunities that we need to create and refine and get them right. So loads of really great stuff that we've heard so far. And then of course, Emma's vendetta against vests. I think she needs to jump into the networking room at the end of the day and explain that one. But yeah, hearing from Emma, really hearing from someone who is a mass event participant and a fundraising manager at the Brain Research UK. That was a really fantastic combination there as well. And I think that's what we wanted to do with today's event, is really make sure we weren't just talking at you, but bringing these different groups together and someone who has experienced it on the ground and from the charity side. And later today, we're going to hear from a community fundraiser themselves with Linda from Black Girls Do Run. So we've got this really fantastic spectrum throughout the day of perspectives that we're hearing. And I do want to shout out as well, I forgot to mention earlier, but someone did actually tell me where the Scissor Man was from. The Scissor Man was Tom Wheeler from Stockport, who took place in the Great Manchester Run, Great North Run, and London Marathon, dressed as a pair of scissors for the Little Princess Trust, and specializes in providing wigs for children who have lost their hair due to cancer treatment. So I love that I could do a shout out into the chat room based on a split second of footage and somebody knows that community fundraiser. I think that's really what mass events and community fundraising is all about, is actually these connections, these real world connections. And of course we had the veg box. Helen Tempest said that she saw the veg box at mile 21 this year. They were amazing and still smiling. And somebody else mentioned a gentleman in a washing machine on his back at London Marathon 2022. What a legend. I think I've seen that person in previous London Marathons as well. So yeah, that was really, really interesting kind of runners that you attract with these big events. But yes, overall, we've had a really fantastic first 2 sessions of the day, and we are, I would say, just past the halfway mark, probably. We are ready to race to the finish line today. So we're about to have a 30-minute lunch break, and then we'll come back together and go into our go session, which is session number 3, where we're going to meet a community fundraiser themselves. And then after that, we'll come back together for our panel discussions. So make sure you hang around to the end. This is your chance to ask any questions you haven't already asked to our panel from Enthuse, from London Marathon Events, and from The Great Run. But while you're on your 30-minute break, please remember to check out the buttons below me on the screen. You've got the enthusiasts in the help desk room fielding your questions on the Enthuse platform. Now's your chance, while there's a bit of silence and there's a lunch break, to dive in there and ask an enthusiast any questions you have about your Enthuse platform use. And then we've also got the delegate bag in the middle, so the bonus resources. Make sure you dip into that as well and steal anything that's in there. It's all for you and it's all free, and that's been contributed by our partners at London Marathon Events and Great Run. And then of course the networking room will be open as well, so you can rub shoulders with other community fundraisers who are here today discussing any of the stuff that's been blowing up in the chat room. I can see so many conversations about things like stewardship, and using WhatsApp seems to be like a really popular idea everyone's going to take away, as well as some of the challenges that you guys have had with your mass participation events. So jump into the networking room and discuss those with each other and kind of that's the space that we've created there for you to have those conversations. And of course, we've got that big button down there as well to book a consultation. So if you do want to have a conversation with an enthusiast to start using Enthuse, bash that button, book in a call with one of their specialists, and they'll be in touch to get you set up and find out what you need to do or what your unique needs are at your charity to start using Enthuse for your mass events program. And then, of course, throughout the day, we will continue posting GIFs to the online message board. I'm really looking forward to seeing some funny GIFs. So please jump in there on the lunch break and put some funny GIFs and some messages for what your aims are for your mass events in 2023. But in that case, that's everything for the morning, for the first half of the session. I will hand over to you guys to have your lunch break for 30 minutes, and I'll see you back here at 12:30. I think that's the right timings. Yep, 12:30. I'll see you back here for session 3 and session 4. Hello and welcome back to Picking Up the Pace, the new approach to mass events. We are back once again from our lunch break with the team from Enthuse, London Marathon Events, and Great Run. So thank you so much for sticking with us here as we are about to head into Go, which is our third session. So we've had ready, we've had set, and we are diving into Go together. But first, tell me in the chat room what you had for lunch. How was your lunch break? Are you feeling sustained, nourished? Are you ready to run the marathon that is the second half of this event? Just kidding, it's not too long, and we've got some really fantastic content coming up as well. Once again, don't forget to click on the Ask a Question button under the chat room if you have any questions in our last 2 sessions. So our next session, we're going to be speaking with a community fundraiser, and then in the afternoon, a panel discussion. So feel free to keep asking us questions throughout the day. Using the chat room over here as well to have a chat with each other. I can see so many really fantastic pieces of advice being swapped between event attendees today as well. And of course, at the end of the event, we're going to leave the networking room open too, which is one of the buttons down here. So you can continue the conversation even after the end of the event today. A few other things to remind you of. We've got the book a demo button down here as well. I believe it's blue. So that big blue book a demo button, that's your way to get in touch with Enthuse if you are a little bit interested in how you could use their platform and some of their features to deliver your mass participation events fundraising program. If you're an existing Enthuse customer and you've got a few questions, you can also chat to our enthusiasts in the breakout room button down there as well. But that's enough of the housekeeping and admin, because we are about to go into an incredibly exciting session, session number 3, our Go session. This next session is actually going to be really, really magical. I'm super excited about this one. Enthusiast Sophie Clark is joining us once again, and she sits down with a real-life community fundraiser, Linda Argyman. She's the co-founder of Black Girls Do Run UK, and she's going to tell us a bit about why there was a need to set up a running community for Black women and her personal experience in the 2022 TCS London Marathon. So her journey of going into that marathon run. You're going to hear a really unique perspective here from a fundraiser who is also a founder for a running community and a marathon runner herself. And it's this really brilliant combination of these different parts of Linda's experience that I think is going to be really unique and really special to hear as community fundraisers. It's also really bringing in a lot of those elements of championing diversity in mass events, what we've heard a lot about already today. We're going to look at the thinking behind getting involved in mass events, what motivates a runner, what makes them come back for more and run for your charity a second or third time, and how they use social media to fundraise. So how Linda herself has used social media or how other runners are doing that. I've got a couple of bits of info I shared with from Linda. She said this fantastic quote. Actually, I don't want to give it away because she might say it today, but there's some really fantastic stuff coming up in this talk. So I really encourage you to stay tuned to this one. Yeah, you're about to hear some really, really magical stuff from Linda. She does say she always loved running, but whenever she joined running clubs, she didn't see anyone that looked like her. And I think that's going to be one of the big takeaways from this session, is how we can make sure that we are creating a diverse space for community fundraisers in the sector. So without taking up more of your time, I'm going to hand over to Sophie, who's going to be speaking with Linda Argyman from Black Girls Do Run UK. Over to you guys.
Thanks, Josh. So great to be back here, and a very warm welcome to our third session of today's conference. So I hope you're enjoying it so far. So my name is Sophie, and as mentioned before, I'm Commercial Director here at Enthuse. And here at Enthuse, diversity and inclusion. It's a really fundamental element. We've got our own DEI team made up of our own enthusiasts. And this team really exists to facilitate a workplace where everybody feels seen, heard, respected, celebrated, by providing some really important resources, policies, training, feedback mechanisms, but also learning opportunities. And throughout our partnership with London Marathon Events and Great Run, we work with some incredible charities, and we love being able to celebrate and support such a huge variety of charities, many of which have got a focus on diversity and inclusion. So today, I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined by Linda Argyman, co-founder of the incredible Black Girls Do Run. So this is a running community with the mission to encourage health, wellness, and friendship by inspiring, encouraging, and motivating Black women to run. Linda set up the group in 2019 with her co-founder, Tasha Thompson. And since then, they've really seen the community grow, focusing on both physical and mental health through running. So as Josh mentioned, Linda herself recently completed her first TCS London Marathon, which we'll also be speaking about today, and I'm really excited to hear about your experience. As a reminder, again, if you do have any questions specifically about this session, if you can pop them in the chat box, which I believe is on my left, so I'm going to go that way. And yeah, if you do have any questions, we'll be able to pick them up in a Q&A afterwards. So Linda, thank you again so much for joining us. I'm really, really excited to hear about your insights as both a founder, but also as a fundraiser. So firstly, keen to hear a bit more about Black Girls Do Run. So can you tell us a bit more about the organisation and what was the inspiration behind setting it up?
Hi, I'd just like to say good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me. As Sophie said, I am the co-founder of Black Girls Do Run UK. It was a group set up back in 2019 to encourage and motivate Black women and women of colour to take up running. It was created. It was born out of an event that me and Tasha attended in the spring of 2019. It was a Kingston race. What we thought we would, there was an 8-miler and a 16-miler, and we thought we'd take part. It was just us two at the time. And we were running, and when we were running, we realized that one of the stewards kind of didn't see us, and we thought, okay, we're running in the wrong direction, because we kind of didn't see anyone following us on that route. So we turned back and we went to her and we said to her, are we going the right way? And she looked at us and said, are you part of the race? And we kind of pulled down our tops and said, oh, we've got race numbers. So towards the end of the race, or throughout the rest of the race, we kind of, it sparked a conversation between us, and we thought, did she really not see us? Or did she think we weren't running because we were Black? Because we were actually, there was only actually 3 Black women participating in that event that day. So on the journey home, we had a big discussion about what is it about, why aren't more Black women involved in running? Do they not know about these events? And what can we do to change this? Because we were quite passionate about it. So on the way home, we decided, what can we do? And it just came to us, and we thought we'll start an Instagram page just to showcase what Black women, that we actually do run and what we do. So we decided, okay, we'll just start an Instagram page, showing our runs, showing our efforts when we go out. And it kind of grew from there, and other women decided to follow us and said, oh, I run as well, but I don't see people when I run that look like me. And they kind of decided that they wanted to join us. Some of our friends that live nearby us decided that they wanted to run with us, and we started to make an impact that way. People started to see us as Black women who ran. So that's kind of like where it started from. It just started from an online platform showcasing that, you know, Black women run, and we started to encourage other people to do the same.
That's amazing. Yeah, it sounds incredible, and great to see how things can start from just an Instagram page and see the growth from that as well. So you mentioned it briefly there, and looking at, you know, I suppose the need to start the organisation for Black Girls Do Run. Can you talk a little bit more about that, and what specific needs do Black girls who run have, and how do you support them?
Yeah, because we have a thing where we believe you can't be what you can't see. And we believe that a lot of Black women didn't think that they could run because they didn't see themselves. We kind of just saw, especially with long distance running, we kind of just saw ourselves on TV or the elites doing, like, you know, if you were from like Kenya or something, doing long sprinting, we talk about the elites here, or you saw us doing 100-meter sprints. There was kind of like nothing in the grassroots. So we felt like we needed to kind of showcase or create a group that kind of showed that Black women do run, because so most of us in the group had started just going to your regular run group, so we didn't see people that looked like us. And it's quite hard to understand that when you go somewhere or you go to a group and you don't see people that look like you kind of don't feel safe. You don't feel like you're accepted or that you belong. And belonging in something is what kind of keeps you coming back, because you feel like you belong there. And that's the case for me. I went to a run group and I didn't feel like I belong. Not that anyone was horrible to me, but I just felt like little commonalities, like, you know, your heritage, your culture, your hair, your body shape. Sometimes, unless you're in a group like that, you don't feel like you're understood. But with the Black women who we ran with, we had that in common. And that was the reason why we started that group, because people did feel comfortable. They felt relaxed to talk about their culture, their heritage, their health. Because especially with black girls, the age of like 15, it's recorded in statistics that they were less likely to take up sport after the age of 15. And we saw this in Black women because usually you wouldn't see them taking part in sport. So setting up the group was also to encourage those people that decided not to take up sport after that age. And within our community, we realized that a lot of people suffered from things like diabetes. So that was also another thing that also encouraged Black women to, we had people in our group that said that was one of the reasons why they were joining, because this was a common thing that happened within our community, and they wanted to change that. They wanted to break that within their community and change that for themselves and for their kids. So taking up running was a way of getting healthy for them, so they can be around longer for their children, and to show their children that to keep a healthy lifestyle. And also, a lot of people in our group also took it up for mental health reasons as well, especially during the pandemic is when it picked up, because that was another way of us getting together and communicating and, you know, doing something that was good for us and to clear their heads and put them in a good, because a lot of people in our group are mothers, and sometimes you don't often get that space to get out there on your own and clear your head and, you know, stay healthy. So the group was also another thing for us Black women to get together and, you know, feel the same and share ideas, encourage each other and say, yeah, you can do this. We would share our runs on WhatsApp and say, okay, I've been out for a run. What are you going to do? Someone else would do the same. Or we'll do virtual runs. Someone would say, okay, join me for a virtual run. I'm running at 6 o'clock, and we'd go out together virtually. And it kind of kept people going. And I think, especially through the lockdown, that kept people going. And that's exactly when it grew. The group flourished during that time. It really did.
Amazing. So there's really lots and lots of benefits that you've had from starting the group. And I think it's really interesting to hear you talk about both the mental health benefits, but also the physical benefits. And so lovely to hear about the encouragement that you'll be getting from the group and going out and doing virtual runs as well. I can imagine that helps to keep accountable as well.
Yeah, and it's a good stress reliever, because people don't realize that it's not, especially with mental health issues, it's not just about taking medication, but going out with somebody and talking through your problem stuff can just ease your day, and it's a good start to for the rest of the day, and it can release tension within you. So it is a good stress reliever as well.
Yeah, definitely. I can resonate with that. Wonderful. So why do you think diversity is important, particularly in challenge events? But also really interested to hear if you've seen any changes in the challenge events since you were able to set up Black Girls Do Run.
Yes, when I first started running, as I mentioned before, we didn't really see much people that kind of look like us. I know it's hard for people to understand, because they would say, oh yeah, we see people that look like you all the time, but yeah, at the front line who are going to be finishing within 2 hours. But when I would go to a race and I look to my left and to my right, I honestly really didn't see anyone. And it was almost like, oh, what, do we not do this? So we thought it was really good to get involved in challenge events to show people that we can and that we do take part in these kind of things. It was also a way of giving ourselves something to do, something to aim for, because if we know that we've got a race coming up, especially a challenge or mass event, we're going to keep training, we're going to keep running, we're going to organize runs, we're going to get together. So that's what challenge events kind of done for us. It was also a way of smashing goals for people. Someone would say, oh, I'll run a 5K, and knowing that they were training for that particular event just kind of kept them going, kept them motivated. And from that, they would say, okay, I'm going to do a 10K. And I think it was the atmosphere that you get when you go to a challenge event is there's nothing like it at all. And to see people cheering for you, especially through tough times during an event, it's exhilarating. And to get a medal at the end for your achievements is another thing. It shows that, you know, your body is capable of amazing things. And when you run with a community that kind of pushes you, it really, really helps. So getting involved in challenge events was a no-brainer for us to show. And since then, when we go to an event and we rock up in our t-shirts, and you know, people are like, yeah, those are those black girls. And it's amazing. It's changed so much, especially with all the other community groups that were started roughly during the same time. They've also come up and they attend the event. So where before we felt like, oh my gosh, we're not seen, we're feeling that we are a bit more seen now, and there's more of inclusivity within these events. We're seeing that a lot more, especially working with some of the organizations to get community spaces in order for there to be more diversity in the events. It's been such a major progress within the running community, and we look forward to that growing and then working with us more, because we are definitely seeing it. We're seeing it in numbers, and we're loving it. We are definitely loving it.
That's brilliant. So it's really, really amazing to hear, and such an achievement to be seeing those changes that you've made along the way, but also other groups getting involved. You've mentioned a couple of different motivations there. So things like smashing goals, organising runs together and supporting each other, but everything to the medal at the end as well. Was there anything in particular that motivates you as an individual to get involved in the challenge events?
Yeah, for me, I was a person that would start it and just thought I'll just be running around the park, come back home, and I thought, yeah, that was enough for me. But I think as the group, as it grew, I started to feel like, I can do a bit more than this. And then when people say, okay, have you seen this event? Do you want to do it? And I thought to myself, can I do it? And I thought, you know what, this is a challenge for me, and I like a challenge. So that's what kind of motivated me. I thought, okay, this is good. And I also wanted to show my kids, you know, that this is what you can achieve. This is what you can do. So yeah, entering challenge events was kind of like the next step for me, the next progress, the next thing to do. And it kind of gave me something to aim for, something to achieve. Kept me going. And following, doing a plan and organizing runs together. That's what we would do as well, which was a really, really good idea, because some people in the group were also afraid to kind of run by themselves or didn't feel like they can run a certain distance. So organizing runs in order to train for these mass events was a great thing. And it was also a great thing for me as well, because sometimes I would run alone and I felt like, oh God, I can't be bothered. But training for these events and running with someone else, by the time you know, you've turned around and you've run 10 miles and you're like, oh, wow, okay, is this what this does? So yeah, for me, entering challenge events it's been a game changer. It has really been a game changer for me. And I don't think I can get enough of it. Honestly, I don't think I can get enough of it now. There's nothing like going to a race, the atmosphere, the cheers, the people, even the volunteers. Everybody is amazing. And I think that's why when someone puts in a group about an event coming up, everyone's just like putting their hand. I'm probably the first one to put my hand up. And I think because of how I started and knowing that it's possible, I am the one in the group that encourages a lot of people to take up and take part in mass events, to show them that, look, we're growing. We started off with 5 people coming. Now there's 15 of us, 20 of us. So yeah, I don't know. It gives me a rush, I would say, doing mass events, and I love it. I love it.
Amazing.
Continue to do it and continue to encourage others to take part in it.
Brilliant. It's so lovely to hear the enthusiasm coming from you, and I can really tell that it is such a passion. You mentioned there that you like a challenge, so I know that you've also just recently conquered the 2022 TCS London Marathon, and yeah, that's definitely a challenge. So firstly, congratulations on an amazing achievement. So really keen to hear about your marathon journey. So everything from signing up to completing and crossing the finish line on the day of the marathon. Can you talk us through that?
Yeah, let me just start by saying that I was that person that said I would never, ever run a marathon. I was just like, not me. That looks too hard. I saw how people trained. I was like, that is not me. Even I would go to see friends at marathons, and I would see sometimes how people would be suffering, like, and I'll be like, that's not going to be me. Being sick at the end or struggling, that's not going to be me. But that all changed, because within the group, when people started to do it, and I'm thinking, if they can do it, I'm sure I can do it. And a group, a charity called Forces Society, had done some work with them previously, and it was a talk about encouraging women to take up sport. And they got in contact with me and said that they would like me to be their runner. And I thought, me? Me, really? And I thought to myself, oh my God, that's such an honor to be asked to be their runner. And I had to think about it. It took me a while. I thought about this. I thought to myself, Linda, could you really do this? Can you really, really do this? And I thought, you know what? Life's too short, and you don't really get opportunities like this very often. So I took a while to think about it, spoke to people in the group, and they were like, yep, do this. Do it. We're going to be behind you. I thought, really? But honestly, they were. I signed up. I told them, yep, I was going to do this. And I thought, okay, the training needs to begin. So I've never followed a training plan before. So that was my thing. If I was going to do something, I was going to do it. I was going to do it good. I was going to do it correctly. So I decided to follow a training plan, a TCS London training plan. And I started out slow, and every week kind of followed the plan. I would drop my runs in the group, and everyone was like, woohoo, yeah, keep going, you're doing great, let's do this. And I think that's what it was that made me think that I can do this, because the support I received amongst the group was amazing, totally amazing. Because at times it was really hard, especially running on your own, because there was a lot of runs, and I think that's things that I had to adapt to, was solo running. But what it does is it really kind of trains your mind and makes you stronger. But the good thing about it is people in the group would do things like, if I knew I was doing a 16 mile, some people would join me for some of the miles. They would come and say, okay, I'm not going to run the whole thing with you. I'd run 8 miles. Someone would come and join me, do 5 miles. And it was amazing. That encouragement that people gave up their time to come with me and train was something I'll always be grateful for. But then also the solo runs also taught me a lot about myself and made me push myself. I learned a lot about different styles of running as well. I wasn't too sure about fartlek, tempo runs. I learned all of that through running. It's amazing what you learn to do, which I think made me a better runner, made me the runner that I am today. I also had to learn things about fueling as well, which I never kind of took seriously before, but I had to find out about gels, clothing. Yeah, that really changed things for me. Training for the marathon took it to another level of running. So I've learned a lot I also stepped out my comfort zone to do certain things that I would never do before training for London. So I'm so grateful for what that has given me. Also had to do a bit of strength training. If you see my muscles now, they're looking really short. My kid said to me, I've never seen muscles on you like that before. But all of that really, really did help me. And leading up to the marathon, I think that's when I started to get a little nervous, thinking I can't do this. But what brought me back was my whys. I had to think about, why are you doing this, Linda? Not only was I doing it to raise money for two wonderful organizations, that brought me back to the why, and also to say to myself, you can do this. So yeah, so getting closer to time, I did get nervous, but also decided to get ready and say, you know, you can do this, get clothes ready, got everything all set out. Race day was awesome. It was amazing. Turning up there with a few of us from Black Girls, 11 of us ran it actually, and turning up there, the atmosphere was electrifying. Nervous to start with, but all that training, when I started, just kind of kicked in. And along the way, I was able to run with some people, but I was able to say bye. They told me to go off, do my own thing. And I did. And it was also amazing to see other people, other charities out there. Even they were cheering me on. It was amazing. I was thinking, they don't know me, but they were cheering me along the way. Like, come on, Linda, having your name on your vest is the best thing that you could ever do. Because those moments when you kind of feel like you can't do this, someone would come and say, come on, Linda, you've got this, keep going. And that's what kind of like pushed me through. The volunteers were also amazing. The water stations, they had that down. Like, it was, I didn't carry that much water. I didn't actually need to, because the route was fine. It had everything that I kind of needed. And yeah, I managed to push through on the day and did it in under 5 hours. I wanted to do in 4 hours 30, but I suffered from cramps. And these are the things that sometimes people don't tell you on the day. You might have trained, but you train not so that you don't feel the pain. It's just so that you can cope with it a lot better. But yeah, it's awesome. My race journey was amazing, and something that I will remember for a very long time to come. Yeah.
It sounds like such an amazing journey. And I love that you started it from saying, I will never run a marathon. And now you sound like a real expert and encouraging others to do one as well.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the Fawcett Society as well. So obviously we've got lots of charities listening and tuning in today. So I think they'll be really interested to hear a little bit more about what motivated you to fundraise for the charity, but also how you went about fundraising as well, and how you encouraged your friends and family to donate to you.
Okay. As I previously said, I had done some work with Fawcett Society before. And they do a lot of stuff to encourage and empower women in terms of like diversity and women's rights. And we felt that their ethos kind of like aligned with us of what we were trying to do for women in society. So it just seemed like a no-brainer to kind of work with them and raise money for Fawcett, as well as Black Girls Do Run. I thought it was quite a powerful team, actually. You know, we were quite strong together. Yeah, so with us, it was also very important with both of us to kind of give back to the community, both our communities. Within Black Girls Do Run, people don't realize, but races can be quite expensive, and running can actually be quite an expensive sport. So the money that we would raise would go towards giving back to the people within a community that can't sometimes afford to pay for a race space or trainers or any other gear that they might not be, because sometimes that can put people off to keep up their running if they can't afford certain things, or if a race costs £60, it's almost like, oh, forget it, I'm not gonna. But we want to keep people within the group, keep them running, keep them going, and that's the kind of thing that the money would go towards. And I think very similar within Fawcett, they have a similar goals, and raising money for both of them, both of us, I should say, would do really great. This was my first time actually fundraising. I was a bit nervous at first because I've never fundraised in my life, and I thought, you know what, you've got to do this. And that was my challenge. I really wanted to hit the target. So my main way of fundraising was through social media. Social media is wonderful, by the way. It is the best thing you could do. I also wrote, I started to write a blog every week of my runs, and I would also post that. So that way people became familiar with me and my story and my journey. I kind of wanted to create connection with everybody. So every week I would talk about my ups and my downs and things I could do better, things that I've learned. And that also helped with people thinking, oh my gosh, you're doing really well. Then they would donate, which was a really, really, really good angle to kind of come from. And also, Fawcett also took my blog and would put it in their newsletter. And then that would encourage people within their organization to kind of donate to me. And also, what else did I do? Strava. I also use Strava. It's fantastic because with Strava, they could actually see the maps of where I would run. They would see me running, see me training every day, give me kudos. And also, you can actually post on Strava. So I would post about my training, not just about my training, but about what I was fundraising for. And people through there was so generous, and they would donate as well, which was good. And my Strava was also connected to my funding raising page. So if you were to donate, you would also see all the running that I was doing as well. So I also use that as a platform. And Twitter as well, shared it through Twitter. And also my friends also shared it as well, which was really good, like on Facebook. And that also encouraged people to donate as well. And friends and family, I literally had to beg them. I spoke about nothing else apart from marathons. I slept at everything marathon. So they would donate through that. So I just literally would beg them for anything, and it worked. And I actually reached my target, which was fantastic. And I'm happy with that. It was really good experience, actually, fundraising. I really kind of enjoyed it. That was also a challenge for me. And I'm glad I was able to conquer that and achieve that. That was a good achievement.
Amazing. Well, huge congratulations on hitting your target as well. And it sounds like, you're using lots of different tools to be able to let people know your updates of activity, and using Strava and using your blog, and of course social media, to be able to share your journey with people who are donating. That's great. So I think we've got time for 2 more questions. So just wanted to get a bit more of an understanding of how you worked with the charity that you fundraised for, and what they did in the lead up to the event for you as a runner.
Okay. At first, we had initial plan of like what we were going to set up to do. So we had an initial meeting and we spoke about what we were going to try and achieve, roughly how many meetings that we would have, anything that they needed to do for me. That was initially ironed out. So we had about 2 meetings, but then the lady I was communicating with actually left her role. So communication kind of fell dead for a little bit. I would say maybe about 5 weeks before the event, that kind of picked up a bit, where we got back on board and we had to decide about things like our running jersey, what the logos that was going to be on there. So we did that. We also tried to think of a bit more ideas about how we were going to reach our target, and where they would be on the race day, what was good for me in terms of cheering points and spots like that. That was also organized. So we had a few communication issues at first, but that kind of ironed out towards the end, and everybody kind of got on board and kind of, was there for me. They also sent me like a care package as well, which was amazing. I loved it. They sent me a book, top, a card, and they also made me an honorary member of Fawcett for a year, which is good. So I'm going to be able to go to some of their conferences as well, and campaign for their causes, which I'm really, really looking forward to. So they created that kind of family and good relationship, which towards the end was good. I really enjoyed fundraising for them and working alongside them. It was really good.
That's brilliant. I love that they sent you a care package at the end. I'm sure that was really well received.
I forgot to mention that they actually made me a doll. They made me a doll of myself. Oh, I should have brought that. I could have shown you guys. It was amazing. Everyone loved it. Everyone wanted a doll as well. It's called an icon. They thought I actually thought I was an icon, so they actually made me a doll. It was amazing. It was probably one of the best things I've received, actually, because it felt so personal.
Yeah, that's a lovely personal touch. I have actually seen that on Black Girls Do Run's Instagram page. So I've seen that doll. It's fantastic. And really great. But I love the personal touches that they had to really develop that relationship. And thank you for running 26.2 miles.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks, Linda. So I've got one final question before we go into a quick Q&A with the audience as well. So really keen to hear, what do challenge events like the London Marathon mean to you as an individual, but also to your running community?
I think it means a lot more than it probably did in the beginning, when we started doing a lot more challenge events and getting involved. Them seeing us a lot more and us working alongside them in order to make events like that more inclusive has done amazingly. Considering where we started and where we are now, we kind of feel like we're more working in a partnership with them rather than just being runners. We also work alongside them in order to make mass events and grassroots running more diverse, and for them to listen to us as well and communicate and get ideas is also another boost. As well, and it gives our group more of an incentive to keep going and to keep encouraging people within the community to show up and keep on running. That's what it does for us.
Amazing. Yeah, I love that. Show up and keep on running.
Keep on running and keep showing that we're there. We are.
Keep encouraging. Yeah. But Linda, thank you so much. And that's been really, really, really insightful and really brilliant to hear everything. It's really clear that there's a huge need for diversity and inclusion in the mass events. And congratulations again on your wonderful achievements.
Thank you.
And as I mentioned, and as Linda mentioned, the doll is there is a picture of that on Black Girls Do Run's Instagram, so I'd recommend taking a look at that as well.
Can I just quickly say that if anyone is thinking about doing a marathon, do it, because it is something that has a real impact on your life and it changes things. Because I thought I couldn't do it, and now I'm saying, sign me up for another event. So it's a wonderful, wonderful experience all round. I would say definitely take up that challenge and do it, especially London. Maybe probably a bit biased, but it's the best. it really is. Yeah, do it. Definitely do it. Great experience.
Yeah, great experience, an amazing achievement. Brilliant. Well, I think we're going to bring Josh in now to do a quick Q&A session. Thanks again, Linda.
Oh my God, Linda, that was so fantastic. Hi, thank you, Sophie, and thank you, Linda. Linda, you can't see the chat room, but I just have to read some of the things people are saying in the chat room. Kevin says, Linda is the dream fundraiser. Meg says, love your passion, Linda. Call for Backup says, great work, Linda. Thank you for your insight and experience. And then we've got Jody Brandwood that says, you are an icon. Jody also posted, love Linda's enthusiasm, and it has not 1, not 2, not 3, not 5 hearts, but 13 hearts on it in the chat room. There is so much love for you in the chat room right now.
Oh, thank you.
It's really
fantastic.
That's
warms my heart.
I think you've had that same effect on the entire audience of community fundraisers that have joined for the event today. You've really warmed their heart. And I think even a lot of the stuff you've said around, someone sent you a doll, but other ways that people can be engaging with their runners. I think there's a lot of really big takeaways here. I was going to ask a question. I was going to ask a few questions, but you've answered so many questions so well and in so much detail. I do have one big question. What is next for Black Girls Do Run? World domination? Are you going to take over the world? Where are you going next with Black Girls Do Run?
You know what? That's our plan. I don't know if I mentioned before, we actually are England affiliated club as well. So that pushes us onto another level. We also want to kind of make it national. Like we want a group in not just London, but maybe Birmingham, Manchester, Newcastle. So it's kind of like a national club, and everyone, we've all over the UK kind of like know about us and stuff. People kind of want to dominate in that kind of way. And just to, also want to encourage younger girls, because we want to start from, the bottom and kind of encourage younger girls to keep taking up sport, because they always encourage boys, do football, do this, do that. But you often find that girls, they kind of say, go and, do those kind of like other things that aren't sport related. So we also want to try and do something where we can encourage young women to kind of, keep healthy, and take up running as a sport. We want to just get more involved in working with people like Parkrun, getting people out on a weekend and things like that. So we just want to keep that motivation and keep that momentum going in terms of getting people within the community involved in running and keeping fit. That's what we want to continue to do, and working with organizations and brands as well to get that out there.
Amazing. And you said something that I wrote down. Young Black girls are less likely to take up sport after the age of 15, and just other statistics like that, proving there's such a need in that community, and really making sure that we as charities and as this industry are really making sure we're inviting you into the room and having those conversations. That's really cool. I mean, I've got no other questions, and the audience, I think, was too busy raving about how amazing you are to ask any questions with the Ask a Question button. So with that, I'll say thank you so much for joining us. And Sophie, thank you for joining us as well.
Thank you for having me. I've really, really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Can I add one final thing just before we go as well, just before we wrap up? We at Enthuse, we're really excited. We want to announce we're going to be running a competition for charities as well to win some places in both Vitality, London 10K and the Big Half. So we'll be sending out some more details in the follow-up email, which will be included with the conference recording as well. But the aim of this competition is to really celebrate diversity and inclusion in mass events. So keep your eyes peeled for more information on that competition.
Brilliant.
That sounds really, really cool. Thank you, Sophie, and thank you, Linda. Everyone, keep your eyes peeled. Get in. That sounds like a really fantastic opportunity there. So I'll say goodbye to you, Linda, and goodbye to you, Sophie.
Bye, Sophie.
Linda,
Bye,
good luck training for the next run as well, by the way.
Thank you. Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Thanks again, Linda.
Thank you. Bye.
Brilliant. Well, that was super, super exciting. And thank you everyone for jumping in the chat room and just raving about how fantastic Linda is. That was so cool to hear. So now we're going to have our final short break. We're going to have a 5-minute break, just 5 minutes this time for you to run to the bathroom, put a cup of tea on, get some fresh air. And then if you join us back here in 5 minutes, we will dive into our final session, which is the panel discussion, including the team from Enthuse, London Marathon Events, and Great Run. So we're going to bring everyone back together to ask all sorts of questions that you guys have asked throughout the day, as well as on social media and online. And we'll get to really kind of get under the skin of where they think mass events are going to go in 2023 and beyond. So enjoy your 5-minute break, and don't forget to bash any of the buttons below, grab the delegate bag, book a demo with the Enthuse team, anything you need while you're on that break. Otherwise, I'll see you all back here in 5 minutes. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Picking Up the Pace, the new approach to mass events. And we have made it. We are nearly at the finish line. Thank you so much for joining me for today's event. As I said at the start, this was going to be a marathon, not a sprint, but we've had 3 fantastic sessions already. We've had ready, we've had set, we've had go, and now it's time to breathe with our panel of 4 experts from across the industry who are going to answer all of the detailed or fun or interesting questions that we didn't get a chance to cover earlier today. But of course, if you do have any other questions, hit that button below the chat room that says ask a question. I'll also keep an eye on the chat room just in case there's anything that comes up during the panel discussion. But we are now here for our final session, and I'll be joined by the teams from Enthuse, from London Marathon Events, and Great Run to field all the questions you asked throughout the day. I'll invite back onto the stage Will Swan-Bell, Head of Program Management and Support at Enthuse, Rosie Parkinson, Associate Product Manager at Enthuse, Hugh Brasher, the Event Director at London Marathon Events, we heard from him in the first session, and Nikki Holmes, Commercial Director at Great Run. She was also with us in that first session as well. So we've got 5 little floating heads for you in the panel today. How is everyone doing? Give me a thumbs up when you're ready for the panel. Excellent. I'm seeing some thumbs up. Will, there we go. Thank you, Will. Perfect. So I'm going to dive in with a couple of maybe little technical questions, but a big question that's been asked. This one's for you, Nikki and Hugh. Maybe start with Nikki. Do you have any advice on how charities can actually recruit more ballot place runners to raise money for them as part of these running events, Nikki?
I mean, we do as much as we can in terms of promoting, obviously, charities through the ballot. I guess I would very much recommend that you do everything you can via your social channels and your emails to tie in with Great North Run ballot. So the dates for this year, we open our ballot on the 9th of Jan. We will be closing it on the 20th of February. The ballot will therefore probably be announced on the 23rd of February. I'll get Judith, who I'm sure you all are familiar with, to send everyone an email when or sort of 12 hours before we're actually going to announce the ballot, so that you can actually get all your social and emails up and running. But yeah, I would recommend you just bash your social channels, bash your emails, and try and actually recruit those people who have their own places through our ballot.
Amazing. So really using those direct communication channels to get in front of your existing supporters in that way. Stunning. And Hugh, anything extra as well from your side at London Marathon events that you guys would recommend?
Well, the timescale is quite different. So our event is taking place now. We're back to April. So the ballot has happened. People know whether they're in. So the reality now of contacting the people who are in, my gut reaction is don't try. You're wasting your time, right? It's in Nikki's process. It makes sense because the ballot hasn't happened. Ours has been, if you hadn't got the drop-down menu, if you hadn't bought that, honestly, you're going after a target audience that's like searching for a needle in a haystack. So my advice would be to buy the drop-down menu for the 2024 ballot, which will start April the 23rd. It'll probably start on April the 22nd, the Saturday beforehand, and finish a week later. So I go back to people talked about the importance of time, how little time they have. It's about focusing your energy where it's best. And I go back to where it is best, connecting people to your stories, your reason that they should run, and how you connect them in. So as Nikki said, using social media channels to build that story is what you should do. But I think because the timelines are quite different, you do different things here.
Absolutely. But I think that's using those channels that you've talked about, those really direct ways to communicate with people and tell those stories, obviously, when those ballots are ready. And I hope everyone in the chat room is writing down those ballot dates so that you're ready to go, especially for London Marathon 24. Hugh, while I've got you, there's a bit of a cheeky question here. Are there any sort of key changes or developments or new experiences planned for London Marathon 23 that you can reveal today as a potentially anything top secret you want to accidentally leak?
Top secret. That we want to leak. Not really, is the simple answer. We're still going through the debrief process. So it normally takes about 12 weeks. This time we're doing it in about 8 weeks. So that'll finish at the end of November. So there are various different plans that we have. But one of the main plans was that we actually considered the 2020 the project to be the 2023 TCS London Marathon, with a halfway point being the 2022. So since we had longer to instigate 22, we had a whole year, whereas this time we've got 6 months. So I would say there are more tweaks. The biggest change is going to be the time of the year. The fact we're back in April, the fact that there's a lot more light at the end of the day. So it was dark previously at 6:30 in the evening. It now in April will be dark about 8 p.m. So people's training time will be different. The engagement, I think, will be different, right? Where you were engaging with your runners beforehand. If it was 16 weeks beforehand, it might have been in the summertime. 16 weeks beforehand, it's at that new year, new me, new you. So I think it's just really being aware that we're sort of back to the standard timescale, but not a timescale that we've had for the last 3 years. But in terms of, look, we're always tweaking things. We're always trying to improve things. That's what the team are trying to do. But we need to go finish the debrief off from 2022.
Of course. There was actually a bit of chatter in the chat room for today's event, people asking each other if anyone was concerned or how they felt about that, as you've just said, that shift in the event date and what that means for their stewardship and their engagement. Nikki, I want to ask you the same cheeky question. Anything changing, anything new or interesting or different happening this year with the Great North Run or in the next Great North Run?
So for next September, I think we were really pleased with the charity village setup and our change start. So we're definitely going to be building on that. So we've got a huge extra space, as a lot of you saw. We're going to be bringing in more entertainment into that area. We want to actually, sort of encourage even more people to move down there through that charity village area before they go and collect their bags in the baggage area. So as I said before, we're going to be investing more in that sort of finish line and finish day into evening experience. So that's the key development, I think, that we'll be working to for next year.
Amazing.
Just,
and I mean, I'm sure
to add one thing,
yeah.
to add one thing, just the biggest things that I think we're working on really, but I'm not saying what they are specifically, but we're really working on them, is one, sustainability. It's so important, climate change, etc. So sustainability is a huge thing. I know it is for the industry. We're working with Great Run and other mass participation event organisers on that. The diversity, equity, inclusion piece. So again, a lot more work in that space. So those are probably two of the biggest headings, I would say.
And so you guys are collaborating on sort of bringing in more sort of environmentalism and diversity. And is that something London Marathon Events and Great North Run are working on together?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
brilliant.
the
fantastic.
Industry got together pre-COVID in December 2019. It was actually started by Nick Rustling at Human Race, and formed a group looking at sustainability so that we could help each other look at best practices. That carried on in the pandemic about trying to get the industry back, deal with government, and now we're working together a lot more on diversity, equity, and inclusion. So yes, trying to deal with issues for the industry together makes a lot more sense.
That's fantastic. And it's such a good sign to have you both on this event with us today, continuing to be industry leaders in that way. There's a couple of comments in the chat room I'll let you guys read later. Apparently there weren't enough vegetarian food options at the last Great North Run, Nikki. So just putting that on your radar from Emma in the chat room. But otherwise, I'm going to throw over to Will now with a bit of a technical question from the audience about the platform. Could it be explained how we better integrate the mass event profiles with our main charity profile? So mass events adding to our charity total or campaign pages. Could you give us a bit of information about that and really help the audience understand that a bit better?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really good question, and it's an area that we have been looking at and working on over the past couple of months, actually. You may have recently seen, but there is an upgraded editor within the profile pages for your main charity profile, but also each of the event profile pages. And that's just the first stage of us enabling additional functionality, which will give you different options on how you can brand up, you can put content within those profile pages, which then creates an opportunity for you to better link between the two things. There's other features that we're looking to release more broadly, which will allow you to highlight certain campaigns and give a more direct link between the different spaces within the Enthuse platform. But also it's looking to extend that beyond Enthuse as well, and giving you more ways to create engaging experiences with your supporters through integrations. So an example of that would be just making it easier and clearer for your supporters to search for a friend or family member who's taking part in one of these events. So you could have that within your main charity profile on Enthuse, or you could also have that on your website, for example. If you are interested in this, then please do reach out to your Enthuse contact. There are things that we can do today on a one-to-one basis ahead of a full release. So yeah, please do let us know, and there's definitely things we can do right now.
Absolutely. And just a reminder, under the screen, well, I'm pointing at Hugh right now, but under Hugh, there is a couple of buttons there where you can book a demonstration if you aren't using Enthuse yet, or you can speak to the enthusiasts today if you want a little more information. But Will, a cheeky question for you. Is there a bit of a timeline you can give us for some of the rollouts of these new functions? I know you've said that specific charities could reach out and get that sort of one-to-one application of the new features, but when are they going to be available across the entire platform for all customers?
So yeah, I mean, obviously the London Marathon is kind of the next big milestone that we're working towards. So we hope within the next two months, really, for some of those features, not necessarily all of them, but some of the most useful ones to help bridge that use case.
Brilliant. Well, actually, that kind of ties into the next question. We did have an audience question asking, maybe it's a feature request, but I'd love to get your feedback on it. It would be great if at the London Marathon registration, the Enthuse fundraising page was a compulsory setup, so we don't have to chase people after they've confirmed their registration. So again, this sounds like a feature request, but I'd love to get your feedback on that and maybe how that ties in with the technical setup, but also the supporters' experience.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. And from our perspective, we want to do as much as we can to make sure that Enthuse is seen as a platform of choice for the event organizer, for the charity, but also the supporter. We do know that choice is important to charities, and we guess that is also from their supporters. So we're really focused on building the features and experiences that make us that preferred choice. If there is a way that the person who's asked this question, or the charity in question, believe we can add more specific features to enable this, we can definitely speak to the different partners about how that might be created. But we believe that it should be down to the charity, and we really want to empower them to make those choices themselves to craft the best experiences for their particular supporters.
Brilliant. And we've heard so much today about the importance of the supporters experience and the stewardship journeys and the different tactics that people can use. So I think obviously that's going to be a big focus for people going into 2023 and beyond, is really building out how they use those functions. And as you said, Will, connecting with Enthuse and asking if there's something that's not there, or asking for that connection or that advice as well. And then one more question for you, Will. How best can charities optimize their use of Enthuse when it comes to mass events? So what are the 3 big things you think they should be doing, or the 4 or the 5 big things you think that charity clients of yours should be doing?
Yeah, I'm going to pass this one on to Rosie, actually, because I think this is best for her in the product team. But the first bit is that integration. So yeah, Rosie.
Thanks, Will. Yeah, I think integration is definitely really key there. So making sure the links to key pages are on your website and in emails and social media channels as well. We've got a connected platform section in our back office, so it allows charities to view and customize all of their different mass events, so they can see them all individually in there, and the different links as well. They've then got the ability to brand their profile pages, so they can add logos, and obviously it's there for all of their fundraisers to see. And then we also in September had the exciting launch of our fundraising settings. So this now allows charities to add default and minimum fundraising targets for their fundraisers, a fundraising story, banner images as well. So if you haven't done this and you're watching this video, do go on to Enthuse and get this set up. And we've got articles in the support centre as well to help you with this. And then finally, I'd say we've also got the customised checkout flow. So this allows charities to add their own donation amounts and tangible descriptions for each of their mass events. And yeah, I think we've seen about 75% of people would be more encouraged to give if they know the direct impact of that donation. So we really recommend you use that. And yeah, I think there's plenty more to come.
Nice. Again, you guys at Enthuse teasing new features and rolling some out, but we can't get a timeline, can we? But it sounds like there's loads of really fantastic stuff coming to the Enthuse platform for the existing and new customers who might jump on there and start using that for their mass events. Rosie, this is a off the record question, but I heard you just ran the big half. How did that go?
Yeah, so I'm a bit of a keen runner. So I ran the big half. It was great fun. I ran it for Alzheimer's Research UK. Had a really great support from lots of family, friends, and from Enthuse with that. And I think it's a really great course. So I've done quite a few halves before. But what's really great about LME and GRC events is that you can always guarantee a really good crowd, really good atmosphere. And I think it's perfect if you're a new runner or a fundraiser as well to get involved with these sort of events, because you're guaranteed, a great day out. And also I was using my fundraising page with Enthuse, so I was able to add Strava. I received fundraising milestone emails, and a finisher medal at the end of the event as well. So all in all, it was really great, and I will be doing it again next year.
Amazing. Well, as Emma Cooper said earlier, Emma Cooper from Brain Research, everyone in the chat has to run a marathon now, has to run a half marathon. And as you've said, the big half is a place to start. So that sounds fantastic. We've got time for one final question. And this one I'm going to kind of go around the circle and ask each of you. But I guess it's maybe a very forward-looking question, looking into 2023, looking beyond. The question is, what do you think is going to be the next big thing or the next disruption or something in this space as far as mass participation event fundraising? So obviously we've had some disruptions in the last couple of years, but I'm thinking a little more positively. You guys sound like you're all rolling out really fantastic new features, bringing in more social. Someone earlier mentioned the use of influencers. We've got the focus on diversity and accessibility, but what do you think is going to be the next big thing? Maybe it is a sort of a summary of all of those things. Maybe it's WhatsApp. A lot of people talked about WhatsApp groups today, but I mean, starting with you, Will, what do you think is going to be, what's on the horizon for you, and what's your perspective on that in mass event fundraising?
Yeah, well, we did actually add WhatsApp as an integration this year, which was good, and we definitely got a good amount of usage out of it. And we think there is a lot more potential of social and driving a lot more from social from the Enthuse platform. So those are the sorts of areas that we're looking into. I think the common theme that we've heard from charities and we're quite interested in is bridging the online and the physical experience. The charities do a lot of that already with their packs and with the clothing that they provide them, as we talked about earlier. So I think what we're trying to look to do is just bridge that a little bit more. How can we make it scalable so it's all connected? So you've got the physical and the digital to just make it a lot more seamless. So I'm hoping we can hopefully drive towards that.
That sounds brilliant. And as I said earlier, as someone who's run a few half marathons, I always love getting the physical and the digital integrated little journey. I think it's so meaningful to get that all woven together in that really unique way. Nikki, over to you. Welcome back, by the way, Nikki. I'm so sorry we lost you there for a second, but from your perspective at Great Run, what do you think is the next big thing in this space? It sounds like you're investing a lot of time and resources into building out the village, and there's a lot of very positive feedback about that in the chat room as well. But anything else that's on the horizon for you, or what do you think is coming next for mass event fundraising?
I think there's definitely, I agree with Will, the integration between the virtual and the in real life. I think we want to put down a lot more chip mats along the course, which means that you can get far more accurate information about tracking runners. That's quite a big investment, but I think it's really worthwhile in terms of being able to actually do a lot more creative things with photographs, sharing of video imagery as you go past certain points, and that's within our own events. I think in terms of fundraising, I can see a trend in the market towards longer distances, ultra distances, over and above the marathon distance. Which is, I find, incredibly impressive. But we're launching a new ultra marathon called the 13 Valleys.
Nikki, you're dropping in and out a little bit.
In 23, I think it's right. Yeah, I think ultra running is growing, and I think we want to be involved in that. So that's something to watch out for.
Amazing. And Rosie, you and I, are we going to run an ultra marathon? Is that what we're doing next? Or from your perspective, what do you think is the next big thing? We've got extra long distance running. We've got greater integration between online and offline and social. What do you think from your perspective is the next big thing?
I think we've got to do some ultras, really.
I mean, I got my runners on. Let's do it.
Yeah, I'd agree with everything that was said. And yeah, I think particularly in terms of integrations and engagement with fundraisers and keeping fundraisers and registrants kind of engaged throughout that journey and the run up to the event. But yeah, I think everything that was said, I'm in agreement with.
Amazing. And then Hugh, finally, you've said a lot today, obviously focusing on sustainability, diversity, and all of these really big industry-wide changes. Is there anything you think could be that big disrupting, new, something different, something interesting that's coming our way in this industry? Oh, Hugh, you might be on mute. Oh, sorry. Yep.
Somebody had to do it.
We made it pretty well. We've done 4 hours with no one being on mute by accident. But Hugh, thank you for delivering in the last 15 minutes of the event.
Exactly.
But
come on. Exactly.
I'd love to hear. What do you think?
So I'm not going to say the things that we're working on that are highly disruptive and highly secret. However, I think, everything that people have said, I think it's just, this is not disruptive, but I think it is what is even more and more important is two things. One, customer care, and how can you really look after your customers so they are important, and the experience that you give them. And then this is the challenge, can you tailor that experience to the customer? Can you, in a mass event, make people individuals? And that actually technology can really help you do that. So it's actually about artificial intelligence. It's about understanding your customer and being able to use technology to personalize the journey and make it more personal. So that, I think, is that's the place I think that will go, and the technological advances will help drive that have been made even in the last 2 years will help drive that.
I'm actually furious that you're just teasing us again, Hugh, even though it sounds like London Marathon Events is leading on a lot of that stuff in collaboration with other parts of the industry. But that sounds really exciting. You said all of my favorite keywords there, artificial intelligence, but also personalization and really creating personal experiences for runners in these events. So all of that sounds really fantastic. That is our time for the panel, but I want to say a big thank you to each of you again. So we've got Will and Rosie from Enthuse, we've got Hugh from London Marathon Events, and we have lost Nikki again, unfortunately, to a shaky internet connection, but Nikki from Great Run as well. Thank you all for joining us throughout the day, and thank you so much for sharing your insight and your expertise one final time on the panel. Cool. Brilliant. I think I just have to race into the networking room after this and harass Hugh. I want to know what London Marathon Events has planned, and I'm sure you all do too. If anyone wants to speculate wildly and out of control what they could be planning, punch that into the chat room and we'll see what everyone thinks. But again, thank you so much to the 4 people that joined us for the panel just now from Enthuse, London Marathon Events, and Great Run. That was absolutely fantastic to get the bits of insight there and a little bit of a look on the horizon for what we've got coming in the challenge event space for the sector. So with that, we are down to our last couple of closing remarks here, but I want to say a big thank you to everyone who's spoken so far today. I'm going to hand over to Sophie Clark. Again, you've met her a couple of times today, head of commercial at Enthuse. She's going to say a few closing words on behalf of Enthuse, and then we'll come back to me to wrap things up and put a bow on it for the day. But over to you, Sophie.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Josh. It's been great having you on board today, and I'm really, really enjoying your enthusiasm throughout. So thank you. So we've now come to the end of the event, and it's been a fantastic event. I really enjoyed the day. So wanted to say a huge thank you to all of our speakers. Very, very grateful to all of the Enthuse team for giving up their time, but really particularly wanted to thank Hugh from London Marathon Events, Nikki from Great Run, Emma from Brain Research UK, Linda from Black Girls Do Run, and of course, Angela and Josh for their work chairing and emceeing the sessions. So despite the economic headwinds, we believe that the attraction of taking part in these iconic events that London Marathon Events and Great Run put on, they're going to continue to attract participants. And that those participants will still want to continue to uphold the fundraising traditions for both organisations. And they've really seen their events they put on become really world-renowned for raising funds for good causes. So we expect there'll be some challenges in the year ahead, but getting your supporters started early on their fundraising and being able to easily donate on the day is going to be hugely important. So we really hope that it's been a useful and insightful event for you all. We've discussed lots of the different viewpoints from event organisers, from the charities and the fundraisers themselves, and also tackled many of your questions. So if there's any questions that we didn't get a chance to get back to today, we'll make sure that we follow up. So as I said in my opening remarks, we understand it's a challenging time at the moment, and we want to do everything that we can to help your cause over the coming months to make the most out of their mass event activities. So if there's anything else that we can do, please do get in touch with our team. We'll be more than happy to help. So thank you again for taking the time to attend today, and very best of luck with all of your fundraising.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Sophie. And thank you to the entire team at Enthuse for joining us today, for hosting the event. It's been really, really fantastic to have you and the entire team here with us today.
Thank you.
Cool. Brilliant. So I will just wrap things up now. Thank you everyone for joining us in the chat room. I do want to take one final opportunity to have a quick look at the message board and see what's going on in there. I will say maybe a heartfelt shout out to Kelly Jones, poor Kelly Jones. Her ambition for the year coming is to have someone run any event for us. I would honestly be happy with just one. And she's put an excellent gift. So if someone could give her a hug with consent, maybe just check on her, make sure she's okay. And then of course we've got Meg, who's also posted her ambition for the new year. I'm very new in fundraising world with only 10 months experience and the sole community and challenge events fundraiser in our small charity. I think we all know how that feels, Meg. I felt like this year was a survival test. Again, I think there was that very same feeling from across the industry, and we've kind of soaked that up today as well. So for next year, I'm not only looking to survive, but also thrive. And that is the energy that we wanted from today. Meg says she can't wait to steward more supporters on their journeys and also increase the types of events they're fundraising into. An increase in income would be amazing if the universe is listening. So Meg is there giving us a GIF on the message board and a silent prayer for the universe to send her income and send her runners. If anyone is looking for a charity to run for, get in touch with Meg. Outside of that, Sophie's just said a big thank you, but I want to say another quick thank you to Angela from Red Fox. We've got Linda from Black Girls Do Run. Of course, we had Hugh and Nikki from London Marathon Events and from Great Run, respectively, and the entire team at Enthuse. We've had some really fantastic sessions today and a really good opportunity to get under the skin of mass event fundraising, looking a little bit back at 2022 and 2021, but really focusing our energy on looking forward. What new features are coming, what is just on the horizon or around the corner. I do want to do one final shout out to some of the buttons below the screen before you go, just so you don't miss any of the other freebies you get by joining for today's event. So we've got the enthusiasts room. I'm sure that's going to be open a little while longer, so you can ask any questions about your existing use of Enthuse and anything you might want to do differently or how to maximize the way you're using the platform. If you're new to Enthuse, we've got the book a demo button, the big blue one in the middle-ish. I have no idea where the buttons are. I'm just making it up at this point. But that big one down there that says book a demo, if you are new to Enthuse, book a demo and they'll be in touch and you'll get a chance to find out how the platform could work for you and your mass events program. And of course, don't forget to dig into the delegates bag, the bonus resources. That stuff is golden. You're going to find stats, benchmarks, video resources, reports and research as well from the entire team who've joined us and hosted today's event. So thank you to all of our partners for the contributions into the delegates bag. If you're still hungry for more info about Enthuse, definitely book a demo or speak to the enthusiasts and they can give you more tips and tricks. Otherwise, I want to say a huge thank you again to you guys, the audience, every event fundraiser that joined us for today's event, contributed in the chat room, through your aims and ambitions for 2023 onto the message board, and just generally joined in and had a great time. So thank you all so much for joining us today. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll see you at the next Enthuse event.